whenever flame is in play too, it's when your significant other is hungry and you're not going to a restaurant. It's like, when the fuck are we gonna eat? Like, when the fuck are you coming top lane? Like, I wanna fucking eat. Like, oh, we're doing this, but when the hell are we gonna eat? Like, when is this over? I wanna go eat. Can we eat already? Okay, like, are we done? Are we done? Like, can we go eat? Like, I'm so fucking hungry. Like, flame is such
you've got your semantics wrong there. You've got your semantics wrong there. He can do everything. He doesn't want to. You see the difference? That's a key distinction there.
Whatever he doesn't
it's like you could have just been a great teammate and had all your skills in the game. You didn't choose to. You choose to be a fucking brat. And as a result, that's the way your life went. This is episode 40 of Listen Loco. That's right. This show's now had more episodes than years I've been alive.
Wow. You're 39?
No, I'm actually only, let me see, my birthday was actually a few weeks ago, so I'm 36 now.
Whoa. Wait, I didn't even know it was your birthday.
Because I don't brag about these things, man. I don't make my private life public. It's called a private life for a reason. I let all you plebs think you know my private life, because that's exactly what you do. You know, you feed them the little distraction, and then they never see what's going on for real. Hence why Loco thinks I'm just some like fucking incel virgin locked in a room all day long. Little does he know, you've heard some of the stories. Anyway, back onto the episode, because I've just remembered the last thing we'd want to do, Loco, is say something really awkward when Ashley's on the episode, like you wouldn't want to fucking do. So anyway, we won't do any of that. We'll skip straight into the LCK. Actually, should we address the bet angle first? Should we do that now, Ashley, to get out the way?
Oh, wait. Sure. Anytime you want. Let's go.
Okay, yeah, let's do that.
So the premise was this, because you have to give people the context in case they didn't watch the episode, and no one's obviously going to watch an old episode of the show that's irrelevant now. What happened was, when we were doing pre-season, I think it was before the season had begun, we were doing our show where we looked at the rosters in the LCK, and I think because they did like half decent in the Kesper Cup, Ashley picked Kingzone to be, she thought they would be a playoff team. And then basically I didn't, because, and I'll give you the very quick reason now without going into a lot of details, but if you just look at the teams that are below them now, well, obviously I expected Katie Rolster to be really good. Obviously I thought Afreeca could be good. You know, Gen.G would be half decent. You thought all these teams. So to me, it was just a numbers game. I was like, right, well, I know these couple of rookie teams are good. I know that these teams are good. You know, you only have 5 teams can make the playoffs. And in fact, originally I think you said they were going to finish 4th, but we made the bet anyway that if they just make playoffs.
Yeah. And
so as long as they made top 5.
Right now, so the bet was for them going into the 5th place because actually we watched the VOD, but now Kingzone's actually in the 4th place, and they might even end up being in the 3rd place. They might overtake Sandbox at this point.
Sure. And anyway, here's the essential part though, is actually I never made a bet that she would get some sort of flame tickets. What happened is, I made have you noticed all the other bets on these shows, right, are like, haha, a tweet, or like, I just get to call you Lord or something. Like, they're all like, because that's when it's Loco's money's on the table. When it's my money's on the table, Loco tried to like bully me into some sort of
bully you.
Oh, saying you've got all the money. Why don't you fucking pay all her expenses, homie? You notice how even Loco's bets involve him sort of in some mad sense white knighting for a girl in esports.
White knighting.
Then again, why break the habit of a lifetime, right, Loco? So anyway, I took Loco's bet because you know what? That's what men do. That's what people who actually have the fucking income to put their money where their mouth is, as we say in the UK. Even though, by the way, it was also a mad one-sided bet, because all I would have won was, I think, a tweet, right? Wasn't it? Where you're just going to tweet something about Loco being rubbish or something. Like, it was a pretty shit bet, actually.
Well, Thorin, if you're gonna brag about how much money you made, then of course I'm gonna call you out on it. If you're gonna say I make so much Skrilla.
No, that's why you're a white knight, Loco, because logically this would be the bet, right? She only had to get any of the top 5 positions. Logically, if it's about who's got the Skrilla and all that, well, what was her side of the bet? What do I win? Basically, fuck all. So really, I only did the bet, Loco.
Okay, you're right. I am a white knight.
First of all, feminism. Please stop fetishizing her as a damsel in distress. She's an independent woman. Listen, women can do anything nowadays. Women can even be corrupt world leaders. You guys should know about that. So anyway, I believe women can do anything in the world. So even lie about politics. So anyway, we made the bet. the whole point of it was, it's not the end of the world to lose this bet. In fact, it's actually one of those ones where, funny, we were talking about this before the episode, where I've said this before, I don't think altruism is a real thing, basically. And so I think even if you do something that doesn't seem to do something for someone else, you should probably in some way enjoy it yourself, in which case it's not really pure altruism. So to be fair, the reason why I actually am not that mad that I lost this bet is, like, first of all, Kingzone was way better than I expected him to be, even in the context of all those teams that I said were below them. Secondly, there's the part where it's like, you're right, I have got money to spend, so why not help someone out who's in a position where they can't necessarily go to these events? I'm sure she'll be able to do some interviews or something, whatever event she goes to, if it's a League of Legends event, so fair enough. I think it's fine. I'll be magnanimous in losing it. Okay. And I just got to turn it all to Loco anyway, even though it didn't really have that much to do with him, to be honest. Whatever, I got my fucking pound of flesh, didn't I? I got the flame out there.
I like how the ending is Thorin and Ashley makes a bet, and in the end, Loco loses.
No, like, we'll be talking about something random. We'll be talking about something that has nothing to do with me, and then it'll be like, yeah, do you remember when Loco was a garbage coach? I'm like, what the fuck? I'm just sitting here fucking running the show. Why the fuck do I get blamed?
Okay.
Anyway, now that that's out the way, so the initial excitement's gone, let's actually talk about the teams in the LCK now. So why don't we just start at the top? Because here's the thing. I've noticed on all the podcasts around the world, because I do like fucking half of them, it was always a problem whenever you talked about the number one team in each region for the first sort of like 6 to 7 weeks, because famously they were all like almost undefeated. You had like FPX in China, you had Griffin in Korea, you had G2 in Europe, and you had Team Liquid in North America. And these teams were so dominant that it was like, what's there to talk about? They won more games. So basically, you need the top team to either lose or get played really close before there's a topic to discuss. Well, obviously, the mad thing is, around exactly the same time, all of these teams started losing, and that included Griffin. And the craziest part about Griffin losing is if you actually look at the teams they'd already beaten, they basically had a perfect split locked up. The only teams they had left were the bad team. They'd gotten past SK Telecom every time. They took care of Sandbox easily when they needed to. DAMWON couldn't do anything. No one could do shit to Griffin until 1 week, we'll get into this, they decided to lose to, first of all, Gen.G, then Afreeca. 2, by the way, of the worst teams in the league. And don't think, all right, well, those teams turned it around. Are they suddenly really good? No. They're still really bad teams. Like, this is the part we have to start here. Right, Ashley, what do you think about this? Why is Griffin falling?
Wait, let me go first. Let
Let Loco go first. Just in case you make a good point and then he hasn't got any more points. Yeah. So go on, Loco. Give us your point, mate. Come on.
Usually, I'm still fine with guests going first, and also I do think ladies first is like a polite way to be. And
except in bed with you, but okay. Keep going.
And Thorin thinks I'm a white knight, and anyways, but yeah, for LCK episode, I will admit it is my weakest region, so I have to go first, so I don't sound like an idiot.
It's all right. Come on.
Okay.
So can I ask one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's do it in like a time order. So when we talk about like Griffin, like there is like the 2 losses they had, but there is also that really awesome best of 3 they had with SKT.
Sure.
So should we talk about that first, because which happened before the losses? And
no. I'm more overrule that, because I think that's best to talk about when we talk about SK Telecom.
Okay. That's fine.
We'll say that SK Telecom look good. Okay. Let's just do the losses first, because I want to talk about the downfall of Griffin first. Then we can build them up again. Go on then, Loco.
All right. So for Griffin, them losing 2 games, I think their core problem is kind of an over-reliance on Sword playing tanks, and also an over-reliance on Urgot. Where Urgot got nerfed, and everyone dropped Urgot, and Griffin was the only team that's like, okay, Urgot is still playable, Urgot is still good. I think a lot of that came from like Thor's mastery on Urgot and his preference for it. I think Thor not being on Urgot and not being on Sion actually fucks with Griffin's team fighting a lot. Like, Thor opened up a lot of great team fight for Griffin, and he was a really good tank player, he was a really good engaged player, and not having that and that getting taken out actually really messed up Griffin's team fighting mojo. And also Thor is god-awful on carries. I don't think, like, the Riven counter pick was really fucking bad. He couldn't do shit with it, and he's just not been impressive as a carry player. And if you move on to other players like Tarzan, I actually think Tarzan had a bad series versus Gen.G, kind of okay versus Afreeca, but he still looked decent. It's just Tarzan is like way up here, and we expect godly performance from him every single fucking time. And then it was insane that he was performing at that level consistently, and then he dropped off. And it's not even dropping off. He's still a good player. I still think that performance was a top tier LCK jungler. It wasn't just like this god jungle performance that we always expected from Tarzan. And the last thing is, non-AP carries kind of getting pushed out of bot lane, and bot lane becoming more standard hurts Viper a lot. I thought Viper was the best 80 bot lane player by far when more AP carries were incorporated, but when you take out the AP carries and it's just 80 carry versus 80 carry in bot lane, it helps out Teddy and Ruler a lot, and Viper becomes a lot more mortal. So I think there was definitely a meta shift that hurt Griffin, but there was underperformance from key members and Sword getting kind of exposed, and I think those were like the overlying reasons on Griffin kind of losing to Afreeca and Gen.G.
What do you think,
so you're saying that, okay, so part of it is the underperformance, which I agree, like, you know, Griffin actually had like a different performance I'm going to talk about, but you also think that it's to do with Sword can't play...
There's the patch change, you know, nerfed like Urgot, what else, fucking Sion isn't played very much.
Yeah. Like, I think in general, Griffin came into that match not having like a full understanding of the 9.5. Like, for example, I was really curious that they didn't ban Braum in both games of this, like the series, which was like a very high priority pick.
Yeah,
and
Braum,
another
Lissandra.
thing was like, Lissandra, and there was almost cocky from Griffin, because if you look at Fly's win rate, Fly had like a over 70% win rate only on Lissandra. On every single other champion, he had win rate below 50%, I think. So it was very cocky for Griffin to open up both Braum and Lissandra. So that team does have this tendency to go really weirdly stubborn with some drafts. Like, it almost feels like CV Max falls into this mindset, hey, my drafts went wrong, you guys played it wrong, so we're going to try it all over again. I kind of feel like he falls into that mindset. Sometimes we've seen it in 2018, like that fucking...
I don't think that's exclusive to CV Max. It's happened a lot in LCK, and the pattern is when a team doesn't change draft, they will lose again and again and again, and they'll lose in a cocky manner. So, like CJ Blaze in versus Ozone in the finals, they gave up Zed 3 times, and then they got fucked in the side lane. To the
and they kept drafting for late game, even though they were losing every game in like 22 minutes. You know.
Yeah, and Azubu Frost, when they lost to Najin Sword and in the final, they gave Xin Zhao 3 times, and then they got crushed by Xin Zhao 3 times. So historically in LCK, when teams have been stubborn and they lose to a draft and they keep giving it, they have never won.
It's because there's that component where, I mean, I'll actually use the classic Hotshot GG line here, which is like, you know, when someone has like a really weird matchup, they think that it should win, but you're like, well, no, if you look in every solo queue game, you know, it's the other matchup that wins. What they always say is that infamous line, Loco, they go, but if you play it out correctly, which means that, you know, if everything they thought was going to happen happens exactly that way, they're right, you might win that particular matchup. So a famous example is when Faker and Froggen were trying to tell everyone else in the world that fucking Carthus beat LeBlanc straight up, which it definitely didn't, by the way. It only did if you were Froggen or Faker. That was the joke, you know. It's like, if they were so absurdly good, they could make it work. Well, on similar lines, like, you can tell a lot of the Korean coaches, that's what they do. I don't even think it's that they're trying to punish the players. I think they literally just thought, like, you fucked that up, guys. Like, you didn't play correctly. You didn't play to the win conditions. Let's just do it again. Let's have the same pick again. Let's do it correctly.
I actually disagree with you on that. I think it comes from a lot of player stubbornness, where player feels like, no, I can win that matchup. I just made a mistake. This is a winning matchup. Give it to me again. We don't need to ban this. We don't need to ban this. And a lot of the good LCK teams will be really stubborn because they got there winning that certain way and playing that matchup in a certain manner, and they also beat it in practice. So I think it's more so the players being stubborn, and from a coaching side wants change, but it's really hard to tell a player, like, the matchup's actually fine, but you fucked up, and I think you're going to fuck up again, so I don't think you should play it. And it's like, you're telling a player, like, you're fucking up, and we need to change our game plan because of you. So it kind of has to come from the player, where a player is like, I'm not in a form or condition to play it again against them. And I really think they should have been able to. I think someone in Griffin should have been like, holy fucking shit, Vayne, Braum, and Lissandra are so core to Gen.G beating us, especially Vayne, or at least Braum. Let's separate Braum and ban Vayne. Like, that should have been something that was said from anyone on Griffin, and they didn't.
And that's one thing I, like, come back to Griffin all over again, is they don't have a single truly veteran player. Like, all of the players in Griffin have actually really kicked off their career in that team. So I wonder that lack of veteran has a part of it. But okay, so that was my first issue with Griffin against Gen.G and Afreeca. I actually number two, Tarzan. Even though I still think Tarzan's an awesome jungler, he has a habit of playing a bit more passively during the early game. So the whole team almost treats Tarzan like a separate jungler who needs to farm up and can carry. Like we've seen that tendency on the game 2 against SKT where Tarzan almost played even in a top mid laner. But so Gen.G was allowed to draft Zac, and Zac kind of was farming. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
If the opponent team drafts Jack, you almost have to counter jungle and really punish this early game, but that wasn't happening, and it almost felt like the Gen.G understood that Tarzan likes to play a bit more farm focused early game based, and that kind of led Zac going into the late game without being punished, and it was a bad sign. So teams started to figure out Griffin's play pattern, and I do think they were severely underperforming. I talked to Sword in their hands after they started winning games again, and they were saying, hey, we needed to change our mindset, and Sword especially thinks that, hey, I was really down on confidence during that time because I thought I couldn't play carries, but I'm getting better now. So it's a combination of multiple things.
Yeah, there's a lot of topics here. First of all, what Loco said, I definitely agree completely. I'm not the guy who follows all the patches in and out, but that's one of the immediate things I noticed even before they started losing games, because I always told you, even when Griffin was unbeatable, Sword is easily the worst player in that team. He was very competent if he could play Sion and Urgot. That's about it. Beyond that, for him. Yeah. You saw how once those... And here's the other thing as well, look, this is what people miss with what happens with great teams. I always say this. A great team doesn't have 5 great players. It has players that when you cover the weaknesses of your teammates, you look great. Really so one of the reasons why Sword always got those champions is, first of all, there was a very small champion pool in the top lane anyway, so you tended to just give up those champions. You don't ban them all out. And then secondly, they had such an amazing draft elsewhere with all those flex picks that who the fuck's banning out Sword? No one. You just give him that. You go, whatever, give him Urgot, whatever. We play that in every game anyway. So we'll just, we'll try and deny Chovy his pick. We'll try and deny Tarzan a really strong jungle. No one was trying to ban him out. Whereas now you see in the current meta, dude, he's actually legit bad in some of these games. He had some big
impact syndrome.
He had a lot of problems, once you got him off things like Sion, which, to be fair, he was very good on, I will say. He wasn't just a Sion player. He was very, very good on it because he kind of knew what he needed to do. Then the other player you correctly nailed as well is the support player, Lehens. Here's another thing that you want to look at. Go and look at his champion pool now, right? The reason why he's only played 1 game of Braum and they don't even ban it is because they just always use him as the fucking engage. That's the whole thing he does in that team. So he can't play fucking mage support, look. He's not going to do it. You're not going to see it. It doesn't matter if fucking the next line of supports is Nami, whatever. He ain't going to be playing that. You're going to see he's going to have to keep playing Galio, even when it's not as good. He has to, he was even trying to play Morgana just to get fucking bindings off. These are 2 players, the 2 worst players on Griffin, and basically had their champion pool and style within the team exposed. So even though everyone else is really good, who knows, maybe they find a band-aid, patch up move, we give him this champion, or he can do this. But once you remove that, listen, they've still got 3 really sick players elsewhere. I think you're right slightly. Obviously, if you're not playing as many of the AP bot lanes, Viper's not as versatile. He's still a very good AD carry. But when they become just some good players, anyone could lose then. Part of what made them unbeatable was the team cohesion was ridiculous.
Yeah, you said they were a machine, right? If you take a really well-oiled machine and you take out some parts or you make some of the parts different, the machine is not going to run smoothly and the whole machine breaks down. It's not when it's so well functioning together and you move pieces around, you have a problem with the whole. And I think the patch moved around. I think certain player level changed, and everyone's trying to take you down at the top. Everyone's trying to research what you do. Every team's trying to beat you, so you will get caught up. It's so much harder to maintain than it is to catch up. And they were forced to maintain for how many weeks on straight. So I think this downfall was naturally going to come, and they had an upsurge afterwards. But yeah, I don't think Some people were like, holy shit, Griffin, like we were overrating Griffin. Why did we call them the best team in the world? Chinese teams are so much better. It does not take away credit for all the success they had earlier on. Like, that's just fucking
In fact,
bullshit.
actually, there's an angle on that I want to say as well, because there's two other aspects to these games they lost that really stood out to me. Like, first of all, let me think, in the series they played against Gen.G, like, here's another problem. Normally, because Tarzan's pathing is so good, like, you can't invade, so it's like, what do I do early? As we said, because their draft used to look perfect when they had none of these weaknesses. They have all strong lanes. We know if they scale, they're going to win the late game team fights. You can't get to them early, so it's like everyone just feels trapped. Like, you just try and make some shit happen. Sometimes it doesn't work. You wait till the end of the game, you lose the game, that's it. In this particular game here, dude, I almost think Gen.G know they're not a good team, because the way they played this game here was like, fuck the lanes. Like, we'll literally just set up for like ridiculous ambushes and we'll just go for mad skirmishes. And the amount of times over not only the Gen.G series, but the Afreeca series, the amount of times that Griffin is fighting 3 versus 4 or 5 is insane. Go back and watch these VODs. They're never getting a 5v5 team fight off Loco. And it's because in the past, they never had to. Like, they can just wait till late if they want to do that, or they just beat you anyway up, straight up. In fact, they were probably one of the best teams early in the split of fighting 4v5. They didn't even need all 5 players. They could have Sword just farming in the top lane or something. So you look at these games and, like, the sad thing is, here's the kicker. So that sounds like they're idiots. Like, why are they fighting 3v4 all the time? Dude, they're barely losing any of these fights. In fact, they're winning some of them. Go watch both these series. In all the games, they never get stomped once. Even with all the shit we just listed off, because obviously we're trying to point out why the best team in the world has lost such bad teams, right? Even in the losses, they're constantly getting kills back, getting back into the game, getting key kills onto carries. Like, in their brain, I'll guarantee the whole time through those games, they're thinking, like, eventually we just win a big team fight and we win the game. It's no problem, because they're constantly in the game. Well, if you've won that many games, remember, they almost just couldn't lose before. Even if they were behind, they couldn't lose. Even if it was like a stalemate game, they couldn't lose. So they're thinking, this is going to be fine. And then obviously it just never happened, unfortunately. It's like an example of where, you know, there's like a concept in team sports where it's like, you don't want to get drawn into your opponent's tempo and style of play, because that's where he wants to play. So in this case, like Gen.G, for example, I think they just knew, like, we've got no chance except if we just take all these ridiculous skirmishes, because the Vayne was slightly fed early on and they were able to protect him the whole time. So, like, I feel as though Griffin just got drawn into that and kept thinking, like, these are fine fights. Yeah, just take this fight. Yeah, this is okay. Now we've got a few kills back. Yeah, take the next one. It's like, that could easily just be sloppiness, because you are playing the worst teams. You know, you don't expect to lose the series.
I have a different point of view on Gen.G, but Ashley, you've been wanting to speak for a while, so go ahead.
Like, I think it's actually, ironically, the best way that Griffin could have lost. You know, that's what I think. Like, they beat all the top teams that could have contended them the first spot in the LCK, you know, like Sandbox or even Sandbox, SKT, even Kingzone, and they lost to 2 West team, which looks terrible on paper, but however, it's not like they were going to contend a playoff spot anyway, so
yes,
the fact that Griffin now know for sure that they're mortal, and they do have a specific playstyle, like the synergy between top and jungle, etc., that can get, like, eaten into, so they will have to go back home and think about how to, like, grow or, like, you know, to try like a different iteration, and that's gonna keep them on toes as they prepare for the finals, as they watch other teams like SKT and Sandbox play. So in a way, I actually think that if I look at it from Griffin's perspective, yeah, it looks really bad on paper that they lost to Gen.G and Afreeca, but in a way, it's like, it's not just a bad thing that happened if their ultimate goal is to win the spring split, because they really need like an international showing at this point.
Plus, like you basically alluded to there as well, Griffin had nothing to play for. They've already beaten all the good teams. They know they're in the playoffs. They'll probably won the regular portion. They're going to be in the final. Meanwhile, the other teams can't make the playoffs. They have nothing to play for except to beat Griffin. The only teams that had anything to gain in those games were actually Gen.G and Afreeca, because first of all, the players want to play for their spot. They want to be in LCK next season. They don't want to get kicked off the team. So actually, they have all the reason in the world to have all the pressure taken, because they already can't make playoffs. But at the same time, just play really freely and just go, let's fucking go for it. That's the ideal setup for an upset.
You don't think Griffin had the undefeated record that they wanted to play for? Like they really want to keep it.
Here's the problem with that, right? You can say that, but this is a concept that I always find fans get very confused about. So, you know, if you ever say, as someone who's been in the pro scene, like, oh, they just kind of like took their foot off the pedal on that game, you know, they weren't trying hard. Fans will be like, that's disgraceful. As a professional, you should always try every game. It's like, they are, you dumb fuck. Consciously, they're trying every game. But the point is, when you know in your mind, we're probably going to win this game anyway, these aren't even good teams, they aren't playoff teams, and it doesn't matter if we lose. Mm-hmm. That does make you, on an unconscious level, you're not prepared. It's not like life or death. Mm. If this was the final, there's no way they play the way they did in those games there. There's no way they draft the way they did in those games. Like you're saying, same comps over and over. They don't do any of this shit. They don't give up power picks to people like Peanut, etc., so they can get their heads torn off. They wouldn't do any of that stuff. So, like, that's the reason why. I know what you mean. It's nice to go undefeated, but there's a reason why, Loco, only one team, I'm not talking about SK Telecom, Fnatic in Season 5, the reason why that's the only team that went undefeated in recent history is, have you ever seen any of the interviews? Basically, Daylor did an amazing job, because his whole thing was like, he was like a mental coach as well. He did like an insane job of keeping them on track every game for that exact reason of like, we've got to go for the undefeated record, like challenging them, you know, when it's like 16 wins in, like, oh, you still got to win this one. If you don't, you know, you'll have blown history. That's like a really tough thing to do. It's really, because as you say, it's human to get a bit complacent or just not try 100%.
So, what is it? People are going to be like, what do you mean? You have a dream job. Why would you never fucking take it serious when you're, like, undefeated? Like, you're playing video games for a living. You should be so fucking grateful. At a point when you do video games for a living, you normalize it and it becomes a normal job to you. So, ask yourself this question. I mean, I don't care where you work. Maybe you work at Starbucks. Maybe you work at a startup. Maybe you work at a big corporate. Do you show up and do you give, like, your absolute fucking 200% effort every single day? Like, when you go to Starbucks and when you make your fucking coffee, are you like, this has to be the best coffee in the world? Or at a certain point, like, you're just doing a routine? Like, at a corporate job, or at a certain point, are you just doing a doing? At a startup job, are you doing a certain routine? You fall into routine of things, and it's easy to slip up, even in, like, such a highly competitive environment, especially when you're just winning and winning and winning. So, that's, like...
It's also fatiguing to focus, to be fair.
Yeah. Like, also if, like, team goes undefeated for like an entire split, for example, you know how Flash Wolves has like a complete domination over LMS? At that point, I almost worry for the top team a little bit, because I think, hey, is the state of the entire league okay, and is that league providing enough challenge to the top team to a point that they can go to the international stage and like face up to the challenge from other regions? That's at that point, that's actually gonna be the question I'm asking. And for Griffin, it's like their goal was never to have like a high KDA or like go to the finish the split undefeated. Their goal is to go to their first international tournament. One
thing, very quickly. I'm here just to act on behalf of the fans. Don't click that fucking pen again. Right, anyway, keep talking.
Is it?
그거 들려. Okay.
No, 진짜? 알았어.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. That's it.
Oh, so
that was it, right? Okay.
Yeah. Last thing I want to touch on before we move on from Griffin. I think they lost. So, one thing I disagree with Thorin on is, I think Griffin's like defining characteristic is fight selection. Their fight selection is absolute fucking god tier. I think their stopwatch.
What the fuck? When did I say that wasn't the case? Like,
let me finish. Okay. So when you said
no, I won't let you finish saying what an opinion I never said. Oh, let me finish telling you what you said. When did I say that?
Okay, so you said they took some 3v4 skirmishes or like 4v5 skirmishes without sword, and I disagree.
In the games they lost.
So,
you think they took... Oh, wait a second. So if you disagree, you think they took good fights in those games? Yeah?
Let me explain.
No. Loco, you can make all the points you want, mate. You don't make points I never made, though.
Okay. Stop gaslighting me. But let me make my point.
That's what you're doing.
Okay, let me just make my point. Okay, maybe Thorin said it, maybe Thorin didn't say it, and I understood it wrong. But I think Griffin's defining characteristic is good fight selection. And you think having great stopwatch usage. And they never... ever played versus Vayne, Braum, Lissandra in practice. I think that has to be it. And when they took fights versus Vayne, Braum, Lissandra, they felt like these are good fights and we're taking it properly, but we cannot beat this comp. Like, when they actually went head on head with it, it was a comp that was nearly unbeatable, because Braum, Lissandra, Vayne are god tier team fighters against Griffin's comp, which is heavily reliant on CC and heavily reliant on engage. And when Vayne is running cleanse and she has a Braum and a Lissandra on the team, she will clean up that kind of style of comp. And the way you beat Vayne is you play stuff like Vladimir, you play stuff like Lissandra on your team, and you flank and you don't give targets for Vayne to hit. and the way Griffin was drafting was not ready or prepared to play.
You're never going to see Sword play fucking Vlad, mate.
Yeah, you might see it, but it's gonna look ugly. It's just not gonna work. So yeah, like I think the way Griffin approached that game and the way they didn't adapt, and they were beaten at their core, which is good fight selection and beating them through team fighting. Gen.G showed a way to draft a team fight comp that can beat Griffin's normal team fight comp, and Griffin was like, oh shit, we can't beat this shit. Do you guys want to talk about the Afreeca loss a bit, Dorian or Ash?
Nah.
That one wasn't as interesting, to be honest.
Okay.
I don't think that was that
Should we
great.
just move on to SKT, maybe?
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's go.
Yeah.
All right, let me go first again before I get blamed for not knowing stuff. SKT's team fighting is leveled up more and more so, and I think SKT is the most well-balanced team in LCK. I don't think there's not another team on this level where they can win from all three lanes. They can win through top lane, they can win through mid lane, they can win through bot lane. They have the three strongest, I feel like, the carry line. Like, they have the best.
Sure.
If you just look at AD, mid, and top, they have the
I don't think that's even debatable.
I think they have the strongest carry line. And I think they're going to get better and better going into playoffs. And it's SKT. Like, SKT in finals is a different monster. Like, SKT, where it really fucking counts, is a different monster. Maybe, like, that has, like, no kind of actual, like, analysis on it. It's just a kind of era that SKT as an organization and Faker has had. And they're ramping up for playoffs. It's really hard to not say that about SKT when they've been so consistently good where it really mattered. And people are going to quote 2018, people are going to quote 2017, but that was with like deadbeat teammates, with Untara, Blank, and all those. Without like the weight of those players, SKT has always been fucking amazing in playoffs, and I see it coming. I see that.
They were still really good in Season 7, mate. Everyone always forgets that. Like, I've heard people on Reddit go like, SK Telecom in Season 7 was shit. I was like, so they won the spring split, MSI, they were terrible in summer and still beat KT Rolster and made the final. Then they went to Worlds, were terrible and made the final of that. Like, that's a fucking dream year for anyone else in their career. Like, if you go ask Uzi if he wouldn't trade for that tomorrow, of course he fucking would. Yeah. Like, that's only a bad year for your SK Telecom.
Yeah, some of the expectations, like, get crazy, and we expect so much from SKT. And SKT,
of course,
during their,
which you should,
yeah.
You know, if you're that great.
Also, like, SKT's reign during that time was so fucking good for League of Legends. People talk about super teams being bad for League of Legends, for NBA. Super teams are fucking great. It's a great talking point. It makes the league more hyped up, and it gives a main character and like a eye and like a kind of viewpoint that all the fans can look to. I support this team, or I want this team to lose really badly, and it is such a great focal point, and it keeps like the league together. And yeah, like, you should love SKT for what they did in the past, and we should, if you're a fan of League of Legends, you should root for SKT to be one of the best teams in the world again, because it's going to be such a hype storyline. Like, SKT Griffin finals, like SKT Griffin both competing in Worlds. Ashley, step in anytime.
I gotta, like, as an LCK enthusiast, I gotta, like, I respect Faker in a lot of ways. Like, you know, I just respect his career. I respect the fact that he started playing in 2013 and still stays extremely hungry and gritted even to 2019. So I respect it. And another reason I like him is because he just brings a lot of viewership to LCK. Like, every time the Faker comes online, the English viewership literally doubles. Like, and that it just seems that LCK benefits from that aura of godhood that, you know, Faker has built up over the years, and I do not see that as a bad thing at all. But talking about SKT's recent dominance, I have to talk about Khan. Like, number one, like, Khan has always been known as like a bit inconsistent player, but he really calmed it out in the recent few matches, and also the patch is leading towards like a more carry top, and Khan is flourishing. Like, he looks so good on Jace and Fiora, and I really can't wait to see this Khan against the Shy in some kind of international stage. Like, even in revivals, they'll be so crazy, and that just opens the whole. And
he's gonna get bodied, but keep going.
He's saying he's gonna get there.
Okay. Another thing is, like, so we're gonna I guess we'll touch up more properly on the Griffin versus SKT series, but what I noticed about this series is, so you know how we just talked about how Griffin has been known for the team that has insane team fights and turns a game around after like a 4v5 thing. So in that series, Griffin was ahead, and then they would lose team fights near the Barra and near the Elders, and they had to resort to a backdoor just to win that game. So SKT was actually winning those team fights, so their cohesion is getting so much better, and individually, because each of the players have such a high ceiling cap when it comes to when both teams have perfect cohesion and they go clash on, SKT was seen more often coming out on top of them, and that's ridiculous.
I think that series should have been a warning for what was going to come for Griffin, like the 2 losses after, because people are like,
there's even a factor to throw in there, Loco. You know, one of the picks that they gave up to the other team in all 3 games,
Braum?
They gave the support Braum.
Yeah.
Exact same thing that cost them against Gen.G.
Yeah, so it should have been a warning, but what we got out of it was, oh my god, that blind cocoon from Tarzan was so great. Oh my god, like Griffin is still gonna dominate. Like they beat SKT, the perfect season is unlocked. Where if you isolate the game, like Griffin won off of smart backdoor play, and if that game continued without that backdoor play, more likely than not, SKT was gonna win. And yeah, it should have been a warning to Griffin. It should have been a warning to LCK fans for what's to come. But everyone's just like, Griffin, holy shit, best team in the world. Wait, can't wait for what is it, MSI? Can't wait for Rift Rivals.
Like this is saying that. Griffin seems to have very specific idea of what's good and what's bad. Like they form their own ideas of, hey, this is a good thing and this is a bad thing. And when Griffin came into the SKT match, they had just come from like a week or 2 break because of how the regular season, like the games got drafted. So I think Griffin built up a weird idea of what are good champions and what are bad champions in the current patch during that weird isolated break. So I think the break actually didn't do them a favor.
It also helps when you like the rest of the players had insane champion pools in that team in the last meta. So that's the problem. Is if you win every game, how do you know what's good or what's bad? They basically do whatever the fuck they want. They never had to play the global meta. Some of their picks are ridiculous. No, the thing about SK Telecom is like this is where SK Telecom should always have been. This is the reason why when people heard this team in the off season, people were like, holy shit. Because remember, even the KT Rolster super team still had Pawn, who was like, is he going to be any good? You know, he was like still a question mark. There are no question marks on this team. Every single player is good. Like, I know fans, because, you know, unfortunately, Loco, if a Korean's ever at the top, Western fans love it if they fall off. So if you read Reddit, mate, you would think Khan is a complete shitter. You think he's like Darshan or something. He's not. He's just a player who, when he's not on the carries and doesn't have the team played around him, isn't a super sick player. But even if that makes him sound one-dimensional, he's fucking amazing when he's on carries. We all know that. Anyone who saw him in Kingzone, that's the point. That was the meta when he could play all the carries and he had the team to set him up. So, like, if you look at the way SK Telecom plays now, they actually play to top and mid, mate. They don't play to their bot lane at all. I know everyone thought Teddy was going to be like one of the fucking carries of this team. It's like I said at the beginning of the split. Teddy is the player who sacrificed. Go look at his champions. He's not getting any fucking carry games. They give him 1 game of Vayne and he lost. All the others, he's on fucking all the shit that you can. Ash, fucking Varus. Like, you're not going to carry the whole game off these, mate. Well, at least not until the team fight, at least. Like, you're just going to be sat in lane. So, in this kind of a scenario, this team's set up for Khan to carry. Like, if they actually win this league, like, obviously it's too late to do the MVP. Khan's probably the player who pops off and wins them the fucking LCK, mate.
Dude, I fucking hate the Korean MVP system. It cannibalizes teams.
It's terrible, isn't it?
Cannibalizes teams with a lot of great players on a single roster. So...
I'll give you an example, okay? So there's no... Loco, everyone might think I'm a Froggen fanboy, right? But I'm sure you were aware, right? There's no way I would say he was the MVP of the split, right? You know he's tied for the most player of the games in LCS for exactly that reason.
That just means you're on a middle.
That means Team Liquid has too many good players.
Yeah.
That means Cloud9 has too many. Yeah, exactly. The point is, whenever they win a game, obviously Froggen's the player who gets it, isn't he?
Yeah.
So that's why that system's always been flawed.
Yeah, I mean, if you have to split MVP points like between like great teammates, then how the fuck are Griffin or like SKT gonna win? Like, because you're competing directly with your teammate as well as like the other team and like the other solo carry. So yeah, I fucking hate the Korean MVP system where if people pick like an MVP after the game, and then that person gets points, and the total of that points like wins MVP at the end.
Here's all that needs to be said. In the current MVP standings, Summit from Sandbox, Ruler from Gen.G, Deft, all those players, like I'd ignored Clid and Chovy because they're pretty legit players. All those other players I mentioned have more points than Tarzan does. And Tarzan is probably until these losses, was probably the best player in the world. Yeah. Like, the only players I even considered, it was like between him and Knight from the LPL base. That was it. Like, he was the best player in the world, and he was never going to win the MVP in LCK. It's a flawed system. Like, I get why they do it, because actually the reason why they've tried to do it this way, Loco, is because, first of all, it gives a meaning to the player of the game. And then secondly, in theory, they're going to say it doesn't have any bias, because, you know, no one gets to pick who wins. It's just whoever has the most points. The problem is, you want bias. You want people to have the eye test and go, actually, it doesn't matter whether he won the MVP of the game. Tarzan is the best player, therefore he's the MVP. That's why every sport, as far as I know, uses voting system, you know.
I think Summit, Ruler, and Deft are all legit carries, and they're
not better than Tarzan,
but they're just the focal point on a middling team. That's like that's my problem with it. Like, those points just shows like how much you're carrying your team, but when you're playing with good players, you don't need to carry your team as much. Doesn't mean Summit's bad, doesn't mean Ruler's bad, doesn't mean Death's bad. No, these players are fucking amazing. It's just they're not MVP candidates per se. Like, there's different players that have been just way more insane.
Yes. And then the other part is the reason why SK Telecom basically always should have been either second best or, you know, potentially contending with Griffin for the top spot is, as you said, like, there is no, in theory, weakness on the team. Like, they've got a great shot caller, they've got the best player of all time, they've got good carries in every single lane, they've got a really good aggressive jungler. What more could you want in that scenario? Like, they literally have carry threats on all three lanes. For anyone who's wondering, right, and thinking, come on, it's Korea, surely some other team has. No, that's what's mental actually about this season of LCK. Because of the roster building, no other team in the whole league has 3 carry threats. So Griffin, Sword isn't a carry threat. Sandbox, their bot lane is fucking Garbo. There's a reason one of them was on BBQ Olivers in the past. KZ only has the fucking bot lane. Who else have we got? Gen.G is like Ruler, and that's about it. KT has no fucking bot lane, as we all know. That's half the problem. Han Wildlife Esports has no carry threats. They're just a pretty decent team. Like, it's not an exaggeration. You look through the league, no one has the tools SKT has.
I think stars are kind of lining for SKT, though, with how much carries are more prevalent top lane and how AP carries got pushed out. If tanks get introduced back into top lane and tanks are much more stronger, and if there's more AP carries being played bot lane, it's going to shine a lot for Griffin, like it was a few patches ago. But now the patch is shifting towards SKT and away from Griffin.
Well, and SKT, as I said, they still have one tool they haven't really even used to a full effect, which is Teddy. If they really want to put this guy on some hard carry shit and have him try to win, he could do it. They never did that in the past because I guess they had the mentality of having to get card ahead.
That's like such a good winning formula for SKT. Oh, like, so Khan didn't carry, so we're gonna try with Faker. Oh, like, you know, we're focusing too hard on bot lane, or we try focusing too hard on mid lane and top lane. Okay, we'll just wait for Katie to eventually do his Jin Air thing and like start carrying the game at, like, you know, post 40 minutes. So they just have so many ways they can win, and Clud just activates all of them for having like a really great LPL early game style jungling. So yo, I'm just looking forward to SKT versus Griffin, and like as Loco mentioned, that team has so many players who have best of 5 experience. Like Faker, do I need to even talk about that? You know, Khan, even though he sometimes does tilt on bigger stages, like, you know, he does have quite a big, like, you know, best of 5 experience, and, you know, Mata and Teddy, like, I think he has quite a good mentality. I barely see him tilt, so we haven't seen the best of SKT yet. I think we will see even a better version of SKT when the best of 5 kicks in, and that's actually terrifying if you think about it.
To be fair, if Teddy was going to tilt, I think we'd know already after that fucking season on Jin Air. Like, this is like a dude who was given like Chinese water torture, and then he just got up like, nice little bit of water. It's like, it didn't even get to this guy. So if you can handle that, I'm pretty sure there's no loss when you're in SK Telecom surrounded by superstars that's going to tilt you. It's like, I'm just glad to be here, dude. Yeah, okay, I'll play fucking Ash, and Faker can play Lissandra, and we'll let Khan carry all the games, shall we? That's what happens, Loco, when you've both been in hell for a year. Like, now Faker and Teddy are just like, you know what, Khan, you go for it, mate. As long as we win the game, I'll play whatever the fuck we need to.
So if we're gonna talk about super carries, I want to go to Afreeca and I want to talk about Keen. I think Keen is the most complete top laner that we've ever seen.
He also was the reason they won that fucking
God.
Griffin series, by the way, mate. He was fucking carrying that shit.
I think it's hard to say he's the best top laner we've ever seen because of the Shy and previous Korean top laners reaching incredible heights like Marin and them.
There's a lot of good Chinese top laners as well, actually, at the moment.
But I think Khan is the most complete in terms of like where like if you just
Keen.
average.
You said Khan.
No,
Keen.
Yeah, Keen. Keen is the most complete. My bad. Keen is the single most hardest carry on a losing team. Like I think if you take Keen out of Afreeca, I think they go all the way down. I think they're at Jin Air level without Keen. Like holy fucking shit. Keen is so stable, plays everything, can play tanks, and like absolutely fucking carries when he's on a carry. Like it's so rare a top laner is as good on carries as he is on tanks, and Keen is exactly that. Like I cannot say good enough things about Keen, and I just don't think he gets the recognition. It's not Korean fans give him recognition.
It's because of Worlds. Like that C9 series killed it for everyone local. Unfortunately, everyone thinks that Afreeca was shit, but they don't realize that guy was like the best top player until that game.
So there's a wordplay. It's called 7인분, and then we say 7인분, which means 7인분 means doing 7 people's worth of playing, and Keenin분 means Keen's worth of playing. So the play on word is Keen does 7 times like a normal top laner, and he is exactly that. I just cannot say enough good things.
That's actually why when I used to be in Korea, I always used to say that, because you know there's a famous thing, Loco. I'll give you an example by a meme, right? There's a meme someone once made. You know the famous thing that if you put mints into Coke, it explodes, right? Because of like chemical reaction. And so there was a meme someone once made where it said like the Coke was like my girlfriend, and then it was like the mints were just calm down. It's like saying to her, just calm down. Because for some reason, I don't know why, that just triggers women completely, I found. So similarly, to troll my Korean girlfriend a long time ago, I used to always just say like, 7. She'd go, what the fuck are you talking about? You go, what does it mean in Korean? She'd be like, chill. I was like, exactly. 7. 7 the fuck out now. So anyway, that's enough of that. Right, back to the story.
Okay, but by the way, Loco is 71, not 7. Because 71 looks like...
yeah.
아니야, 기인분.
기인분, yeah.
Okay,
712, yeah, 712, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so it's actually 71 persons worth of thing, not 7.
Okay.
Get your Korean memes right. But, like, so I almost feel like there's like this resident curse in LCK, like this ghost just like haunting LCK. There has to be some... At a certain given time, there is always a one talented player who suffers in a terrible team.
Yes. We call it bad teammate prison. He's in prison at the moment.
But like, you know, it's like the degree is so extreme. Like last year we saw that with Teddy when he was having games on like 707 when he was splashing forward with Barris and taking all the kills, yet the team was losing. And now we have Keen, who is like going Swarm D3 on like Akali and still losing. And I just feel really bad for him. And the amazing thing about Keen is he's untiltable. Like, and I recently saw an interview like with like one of the Afreeca coaches. Keen's mentality is the best that he has seen on any player ever. Like the only time he saw Keen frustrated was they lost scrims 20 times in a row. That's the only time that the Afreeca coach actually saw like Keen tilt in any way. But like he has high mentality. Like I said, like ridiculous on tanks, ridiculous on carry. He knows how to play like when they're on a losing team, or he knows how to split push. He knows how to team fight. So I don't know what this guy can do. And I recently read a post where a lot of Koreans were agreeing. What if, I know this is not going to happen for many reasons, but what if they put Keen on Griffin? What's going to happen?
Oof. That'd actually be fun.
Here's the thing though. This actually ties in with the whole angle of why SK Telecom's so hard to beat is because in theory they could play through all the lanes. You don't even 100% know from the draft how they're going to play the game. Most teams you do, you have a sense of like, here's the comp, here's who they probably need to get fed, this guy needs to win his matchup. Like, you don't know that. Well, one of the things about why that every team normally has that, and the reason why, actually, we didn't touch on this, but the reason why you don't tend to get triple threat teams is because exactly that becomes a bad thing.
Balance.
That you don't know yeah. come through. Yeah, so as a result, you don't have someone whose job is to sacrifice. So actually, even though I agree, in theory, Keen could do it. Like, he could absolutely do everything that Sword does, but better. But I could see a world in which that would actually like potentially weaken Griffin's playing style, because at the moment you kind of know exactly the lanes they're going to play through, how they're going to win the game, which the picks are going to go towards, who's going to get the bans. If you actually had like 3 players like that, they would be more dangerous potentially, but they also themselves wouldn't be as streamlined. Like, they wouldn't know all the time what they're going to do.
It might not be streamlined, but over a longer period of time, I think it would definitely be an upgrade. Like, Keen is just such
he's a much better player.
Keen is such a better player, and it gives them another angle that they can attack with. And sure, it's going to take learning to learn around playing around top and playing carries. I also don't think they don't know how to play carries, because they drafted Ribbon for Sword once. It went terrible, but they must have practiced it, and they've been like, okay, this is how we play through top. They're not going to play it randomly on stage without having to practice. So short term, maybe a downgrade, but all roster changes short term tend to be a downgrade, and it's throughout long term where you really see the benefits.
And it's not like Keen is Khan, who Khan I think is a great player, but like, it's not like he can only play carry champions, or he always demands a lot of resources in order to like become relevant in the game. Like, we've seen Keen like do perfectly well with 0 investment. We've seen Keen like fly around when jungle decides to camp top. So I think it'll be a great change, but I don't know, like, going back to Sword just a little bit, like, Griffin isn't, like, they wouldn't be stupid. They would know that, like, you know, because they've been top all the time, all the eyes were focused on them, and every single Korean teams were, like, you know, busy trying to discover, hey, like, how do we topple that team down, because we have to ultimately beat this team. And, like, Griffin would already be aware that, hey, like, we need, like, a different, like, win condition. Maybe Tarzan has to be more proactive in early games and have those different types of options. So I think they're just experimenting, and Sword trying to play more like Riven is one of those experiments. So we'll see. We'll see if Griffin can actually like carry it off.
By the way, there's one other thing we didn't mention as well, Loco, that actually gives SK Telecom also a nice chance to potentially win. One of the reasons, if you remember in last year in the spring split, when Kingzone was the team that was beating everyone, and basically no one actually beat Kingzone straight up. If you don't know, the first game of the entire season, they didn't have Khan, and then he actually had to leave after game 1 in their other loss that they ended up losing. So no one actually had ever had the experience of beating Kingzone straight up in a series that split. But what happened was, in the final, when they played Afreeca, it was way closer than anyone expected. Well, one of the reasons why I think that is because Afreeca actually had to play KT Rolster. They played a really good team just before, got probably tuned up some of their flaws, got in a good form, got official match practice. Meanwhile, the bad thing about LCK playoffs is if you go to the finals, you just sit in the finals weeks from now. So SK Telecom is going to play at least one series, and if they win, again, have a chance to fix anything that's wrong, adapt to the current patch, play an official game, and then they come in theory hot. Whereas like Griffin sat there the whole time just thinking, trying to just theory craft what you're gonna do.
There's a tool missing from Griffin's arsenal, which is top carry, and if the patch continues, I'm very curious how they're gonna patch that up. Because you can't just ban out all the top laners. Like, you need
the key thing for me is like, the thing, they don't have to play through top. It's just the problem they have, in my opinion, is now that, because Sword wasn't a liability before, so it's not like you could just attack him. Like, for example, what's the fucking point of going and ganking a top lane Scion all game? It's a waste of everyone's time, right? Urgot gets quite strong. There's no point just going and ganking that all the time. So as a result, the real problem for me is if they try to still play Sword on these like non-carries, then the rest of the map has to be more proactive. You can't just sit back then and just go, oh, just sit back, farm up, this is fine. It's like, that won't work anymore. So they'll have to change the style. That's what's concerning.
It also throttles the pick and ban. Lately, just like Thorin mentioned, like, teams are now realizing they simply can't ban out Chobi or Tarzan, so they're focusing all the ban cards on, like, you know, top. Like, they never let Yorick open. They never let like an Assign or Urgot open. So if a laner has a smaller champion pool, that's gonna become a target point, and it dosses the entire draft. And it's always better as long as you can execute them. It's always better to have more win conditions, because otherwise you get targeted very quickly. We might talk about DAMWON Gaming next, and I'm gonna quickly talk about this. Before Flame joined, DAMWON Gaming literally had only one win condition, which is get Nuguri fed on Vladimir or Jace or whatever and carry. And the teams quickly discovered that, and they were like literally camping top all the time. And as a result, the whole team was falling down, and they had like a 4-match losing streak. So it's always better to have more win conditions as long as you can execute them properly. So not having that option of carrying on top, like Griffin will try to open it up. They'll try to practice, like give Sword more practice time on carry and explore that.
Okay, so let's move on to DAMWON Gaming and Flame.
By the way, just as a very, very quick aside, since we briefly touched on Afreeca there, listen, mate, you know what's amazing, Loco? I've never played at a vaguely professional level. Not even someone who knows all the matchups in the game. Wouldn't even say I know Korean players better than you. You're probably better friends with them all. But I absolutely called exactly what would happen to you, Cal, when he was in his prime in KT Rolster. Where's your boy at? You thought he was one of the best mid laners in the world?
He's not even playing, no? I thought Sun or someone else is playing, right?
There's a reason for that, mate. It's not because he's awesome and they're just letting him have a fucking break.
I think Yukal, what he showed on KT was kind of like, I can be a better version of Pawn, and
of course,
the team is like functional now. Like now our mid laner is not suffering from an injury every now and then, and we have a stable mid laner. And
ironically, he's worse than Pawn now.
Yeah, and he had to show more, and now. Where is he? He's kind of gone.
It's also because he's so young, mate. Like, when someone's that young, this is why I always say to you, I hate, because you always argue from potential. Like, well, this guy's, look, Greek, he's got a lot of potential. It's like, potential's just a fucking word until you do it.
Yeah.
So when you're really young, there's no guarantee you live up to any of that potential. You know, some people do this. They have one nice split and then think about contracts on Cloud9. It looks awesome until it doesn't, and then it just completely falls apart. So it's like, it's not a big deal. Like, he might yet be a good player, but he wasn't anything like the player he was on KT Rolster. Like, he just got a bit boosted there.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I was going to be a world champion. Now I'm just sitting here with Thorin and Ashley. Potential. It's just potential.
Loco.
There you go.
Loco, listen, all I'm going to say is this, Loco. I bet we have way more fun doing this show and watching League than it would be actually playing on a World Championship team. And then secondly, because if you play on a World Championship, you only really get to enjoy it when you actually win the cups. All the rest of it's a nightmare. And then secondly, mate, I bet we make more per year than the fucking people who win the World Championship if they're Korean.
I think people should get better at utilizing their brand. I think what we've done really well is monetizing and like utilizing our brand and growing, right? If like we had that kind of smarts and that kind of business sense, I think like if as a Korean, if I won world champion, I still had kind of business sense, I would still be able to make a lot. But I think it's from like lack of players like being able to utilize their brand more so than like us being like
understandable. Yeah, they have to practice all day. Yeah. Okay. What were we gonna do now? Which team do you want?
DAMWON Gaming.
Oh shit.
Okay.
So talking a little bit about Griffin and. Or actually, let's just talk about...
By the way, just a spoiler for everyone, because when we get to the DAMWON section, if you think any of the things I've brought up earlier to Loco, he's going to be eating the biggest humble pie of all time. So get ready, everyone.
So for Flame, when he first joined, a lot of people had a lot of doubts about Flame.
Oh, that shit player on FlyQuest who wasn't even better than Hauntzer ever in his life.
I'm not even joking. The Korean community was like, what the fuck? We have Noguri. Why the fuck would a washed-up Korean come back from NA and join this team? Like, why the fuck is this happening? And the other half was like, no, he's gonna be the fucking airplane pilot again. And Flame came in hotter than anyone else could have expected. Like, he came in, that fucking Baron steal, like, he just came in and actually was really fucking great. And as a friend, it was really good to see. And I'm sure, like, as a fan, it was really good to see. And then another thing that was really, really interesting that some analysts have been making comparison to is, so the DAMWON Gaming coach is Coach Kim, the former coach of IG when they won Worlds. And a lot of people compare the relationship to Duke and Shy. So Nuguri is Shy and Flame is Duke, where Nuguri is like this raw fucking potential mechanical outplay. I'm gonna fucking kill you 1v1 and I'm gonna carry the game. And Duke is more of a stabilizer. Duke can be playing tanks. Duke is kind of a pillar for the team, can soak up pressure.
More of a team fighter.
Yeah, and more of a team fighter and shot call. And I thought that comparison was really apt. Shy and Nuguri and Flame and Duke.
It's also, by the way, a pretty good analogy in as much as, for people who don't know, obviously Flame and Duke can carry as well. They're just not serving that role within the team always.
Like, another thing, by the way, I'm gonna mention this, Flame, after he came to, played his first game in Korea and did, a whole press conference interview, he said that, he does like to talk a lot in the games, and I suspect that he does a lot of shot calling.
He does.
And he just didn't get to... Yeah, okay.
Alright, I'm sorry, they're just confirming what you said. Go ahead.
He does a lot of shot calling because, I watch those games quite close and I can actually hear what they're saying, but... So he does a lot of shot calling, but, he didn't get to utilize that strength while he was in the NA due to language barrier, and now he can do that again. Now that he's in a 5 Korean men roster. And another good thing is so DAMWON has 2 junglers, Punch and Canyon. So Punch has a bit more experience, and I am told that he's also a bit more shot caller. And Canyon again is this sheer raw power of mechanical prowess. He's one of the god tier junglers in the Korean solo queue. He's great on project. So they usually pair up Flame with Canyon, so Flame can almost do the shot calling on the top side of the map for Canyon too, or Nuguri and Punch, where Punch takes on a bit more shot calling and Nuguri can almost focus on the lane. So I just really like that DAMWON has this 2 different options for top and jungle. I really like that. And another thing I was going to mention is when Flame joined DAMWON Gaming,
You are mentioning it. Keep going.
Okay. It's a figure of speech. I think it's a habit I picked up when I speak Korean and I translate.
It's all right.
English,
just keep going.
Yeah. When Flame joined DAMWON Gaming, I pointed out that DAMWON Gaming at the moment is a team of almost complete rookies, Hoyt, Showmaker, Nuguri, Canyon. Yeah. It is true that Nuclear had a bit more experience in Europe, but and Flame comes with this immense amount of experience back in LCK and LPL and NA. It is always good to have this mixture of veteran who might be a bit more stubborn about how they play the game, but also have a lot of game knowledge to pass on to the younger team. So I love it when a team aspires to have a mix of veterans and just rookies, and I think DAMWON almost hit the gold when they got Flame.
All right, Thorin, let's hear it. I'm here. I'm waiting for the monologue.
Right, first things first. Before we even get to what's happened in LCK, everyone out there who's been following LCS for all these years, analysts, casters, journalists, experts, Twitter analysts. So you've all been telling me, just like you've all been telling me with Froggen, who also has made you all eat humble pie, that this player's washed up and he's never going to be good again. He's too stubborn. He doesn't know how to play all these different styles. And what do you know? It's almost like he couldn't fucking speak English, Loco. This guy can barely speak English.
Oh,
And he was playing on FlyQuest. Is this even real life? You know, that's one of the more, I think to this day, that is one of the most corrupt fucking turning of the community on me I've ever seen. Is where people... I never even said Flame was better than Haunter, but I said that there was a legit discussion over who was the best between Someday, Flame, and Haunter in Season 7 when he was on Immortals, and obviously Someday was on Dignitas, much, much worse, but he was doing very, very well. Now, I'm not joking, Loco. You weren't around, we didn't have the show back then, so you didn't do this, but this is no exaggeration. Everyone in the community, including analysts, was making out I must personally hate Haunter for even suggesting that. Because since his team was winning every game, they were like, how can you say this? He's the best top laner. And I told everyone the reason why. Because Haunter is a fucking tank player or bruiser player who can occasionally play carries if you set him up for it. If you set up the lanes and he doesn't have a bot lane that's dominant. Flame can do it all, mate. I've known this for years because I've seen it in every single team. When he was in Season 4 of OGN, he was a tank player. He was still one of the best players in the world. When he was in the LPL, everyone thinks he failed in the LPL because no one watches the fucking LPL except Chinese people. If you go and watch in LGD when they were in the summer split, the one that they ended up winning, dude, the first half of that summer split, he was like one of the best top laners in the LPL, and he wasn't playing carry. He was playing like fucking Rumble. He was playing champions that weren't even his specialty. And he was better than Acorn, your fucking god of top lane. Because at the time, Acorn was the god who could do it all himself, right? He could play carries. He could play the tanks. So now you bring Flame back. In Season 9, remember, you're all telling me he's been washed up since 2014. So half a decade later, he goes to Korea. And as Ashley said there, he joins a team that wasn't the top teams. Because, by the way, people made this mistake, I noticed. Cos Griffin came in and were amazing and almost won LCK. And then Cos Sandbox came in and was second for a long time. People took that like scrim hype of DAMWON and they were like, DAMWON's sick as well. DAMWON was like fucking 7th place or something. They weren't even that good a teammate. As she said there, most of the players in the team fell apart in most of the games. They had to hard play around top, give him all the resources and a carry pick. And even then, they weren't winning all the games. And it's not all his fault. Very few players can literally 1v9. Like, if you know you have to 1v9 every game, the mental pressure on you is going to be fucking insane. And so what they did when they brought in Flame was, as you're saying, it's not that you're going to go one or the other. It's that you actually had multiple ways to play the game now. Because when Flame plays, he might play the same champion. They could both play Vladimir, but he's not going to take all the resources. He's going to allow the rest of the map to have resources. And he's going to shot call. So again, you get to play this other jungler who cannot play with Naguri. Like, Canyon is actually easily the more mechanically skilled jungler. But the problem is he's not actually that good in terms of knowing what to do in the game. That's why a lot of people actually wondered, why did Flame end up losing like half the games he played? Because he doesn't get to have the actual better jungler overall. Like, Punch is the better jungler, but they never play Flame and Punch. I think they did like one game towards the end pretty much. That's about it. So actually the system makes a lot of sense. Now that they're in the playoffs, I think they've got a lot of tools. Actually, they're actually, I think they're the dark horse of the playoffs. Like, I could see this team winning a series or two, making it to like the 3rd place game or something. If you're all just reading chat and laughing at that, like, fuck all of you, seriously. So I'm trying to actually make points about League of Legends.
No.
Cocksuckers, I don't even care. If you're just reacting to fucking ASCII art in the chat, get a life. Okay. So anyway, the point I was making is this. When he actually joined the team, first of all, he legitimately did look like one of the best top laners in the entire world. That's no exaggeration. All of you have to eat humble pie for half a decade of talking absolute shit out of your ass when he was playing with Chinese people who doesn't speak Chinese. He was speaking in fucking broken English. He was playing in NA with a bunch of morons and cretin junglers who don't even know how to play around top lane because there's been fucking one top laner who was born on American soil in the last 10 years who was competent, and it wasn't Void Boy. So there you go. There's the end of the rant. How do you like them apples, motherfucker?
Okay, so I agree with...
This is gonna get clipped and go up on Reddit.
I agree with a lot of your points, and I have to give you credit on... What is it? I didn't think Flame would be this great in LCK, and you definitely called it correctly. But there's something I have to kind of challenge you on is, I don't think Flame can play everything, and Flame hates not being played to. Whenever Flame isn't played to, it's when your significant other is hungry, and you're not going to a restaurant. It's like, when the fuck are we gonna eat? Like, when the fuck are you coming top lane? Like, I want to fucking eat. Like, oh, we're doing this, but when the hell are we going to eat? Like, when is this over? I want to go eat. Can we eat already? Okay, like, are we done? Are we done? Like, can we go eat? Like, I'm so fucking hungry. Like, Flame is such
you've got your semantics wrong there. You've got your semantics wrong there. He can do everything. He doesn't want to. You see the difference? That's a key distinction there.
Whatever he doesn't
it's like you could have just been a great teammate and had all your skills in the game. You didn't choose to. You choose to be a fucking brat. And as a result, that's the way your life went. See? We all make choices.
But he's such a diva when he doesn't get played to. He whines 24/7 and he whines in, what is it, post game also. Ashley, you can go ahead.
Like, I'm trying to remember like who said this, but it almost feels like Flame is what Nuguri is, but 5 years after that. So, do you think Loco? I did notice that Flame talks a lot during the games because.
What's explain that again if you can in other words? Like, what was the concept?
Example, like, concept as in. Like, so Flame also used to be a very hard carry top.
Yeah.
And very stubborn and one-dimensional.
yeah, very stubborn in one directional, and I don't know Nuguri's personality, but in terms of playstyle, Nuguri also demands a lot of resource in order to be relevant. He likes to carry. So Flame is like a 5 years after version of that in a way.
Like what I described there, because what I was making the point of when he went to the LPL and then when he went to NA is this is where he had to learn the other aspects local. So he learned to be a tank player and a bruiser player in the LPL. In NA, you're never going to get true carries anyway. You can only get like Fiora. That's about it in those seasons. So half the time you're playing like Jarvan. Jarvan's not like a hard carry top mate. It's like you can do it if it's the right game. So that's the point. Nuguri hasn't had all these experiences in other teams where you have to learn this shit.
Yeah, Flame played a lot of Renekton in NA where he just played like by himself. He got his own lead, and he was like his own island.
You just bully the lane.
He wasn't really mid game. Yeah, he wasn't incorporated into team. And speaking on what Ashley said, I agree with her completely. I think Nuguri is like a 5-year younger version of Flame. And in Korea, there's this saying, it's you have a lot of ambition. It means 욕심 많아. It means like you're very greedy. You want to accomplish a lot. Yeah. It's a good way of saying that.
Flame definitely had a lot of ambition early in his career.
It's a very nice way of saying like you want too much and you need to be a little bit selfless. And Nuguri and Flame definitely share that trait. And Flame is like an older version. Like as someone with a lot of wants, like you learn as you get older, it's not always about me. I can make mistakes. I have to kind of give back to other people and I have to take up leadership roles. And sometimes I have to be a side character. And yeah, like Flame has matured. Flame is the more mature version of Nuguri. Ash, go ahead.
No, that's it.
That's it? Okay.
Yeah. I'm like, so are we on the subject of Flame or are we just on DAMWON?
I mean, the team in general we can talk about.
Wait, one last funny thing about Flame and then we can move on. Or move on to the rest of DAMWON. So when DAMWON Gaming played Griffin, there was this screenshot that was going around about CV Max and Flame. It was from way fucking back. It was from like season 3-ish, I would guess. Season 3, season 4.
It's Flame in them, I assume, right?
Yeah, it's CV Max and Flame arguing post-chat like, why the fuck aren't you playing towards top lane? He's like, I'm not your fucking teammate. You should be, if you're trying to be pro, you should be playing properly. You should be playing towards top lane. I had a winning matchup and I was fucking carry. He's like, buddy, I'm not your fucking teammate. CB Max is like, stop fucking telling me to play towards top lane. I'm gonna play the game however I want to play. And he's like, you're fucking stupid. And he's CB Max is like, you're a fucking psychotic. You're psychotic and narcissist. I'm not gonna fucking play towards you. Get over it. And it's just like petty argument, but like that screenshot
wasn't that bad.
It was pretty bad. Like, and
you put a lot of extra swear words there. It wasn't that bad. Come on.
He did.
He was just giving emphasis.
Yeah,
there.
he did use the word psycho. He did use psycho. That's psychotic. That's word for word translation. But anyways, like it was really funny because like Griffin and CB Max, or Griffin and DAMWON finally played, and that was like a really big high-feed thing about it. Like, will Flame get his revenge on CB Max, or will CB Max get his revenge on Flame?
People are memeing that, like, you know, CB Max is gonna sub in just for one game, and just to have his revenge against Flame and do like a 1v1 and finish this like debate once and for all. Yeah. But talking about Griffin and DAMWON, actually, I like, do you believe, like, Loco, because you used to be a player, do you believe that there is like a certain 상성, like against teams, because matchups, matchups, certain teams where one team just seems unable to beat certain teams because it just seems that feels like what DAMWON has against Griffin right now. I heard something like DAMWON has lost 11 games and haven't won a single game against this iteration of Griffin so far. Like, I think there is several reasons to it. Maybe it's like a particular play style that makes DAMWON really vulnerable. I wonder if players like Showmaker or like Hoi, who have a longer history within DAMWON, just freeze up when they face Griffin because they just have such a long history of losing against them. But DAMWON just seems to have really bad time against Griffin, and if they are gonna make this miraculous playoffs run, like, well, it might just be Griffin that stops him. But what do you think that happens?
I mean, for sure.
I mean, come on, man. There's two things I have to quickly say there. One, like, we have a similar concept in English. You either say, like, it's my nemesis, like, it's the person who's always in my way, or famously, you might say it's my kryptonite, right? So, like, just as Superman can't. But the problem with that is, right, that's usually applied to a team that it's like you're either like similar level to or they're worse than you. And that's why it's shocking that, you know, they always beat you. Like, it's bizarre. Like, why does this one team always upset me? You know, it doesn't really work when the team that's your kryptonite is everyone else's kryptonite and is undefeated in fucking series. Like, and then secondly, I'm not really worried about DAMWON having to beat Griffin since they can only play them in the final, which would mean they'd already done the deep run. So I'm just going to say on that one, like, that doesn't actually work. But fair enough. I see your point. By the way, I just think DAMWON's just a much worse team, to be fair.
Yeah. So, speaking on Ashley's point, is there like player matchups and like team matchups that make it hard? Definitely, because League is a puzzle with infinite different ways to kill the Nexus, right? The puzzle is how do you make the Nexus explode, and you can target it in a lot of ways. Poke comp, team fight comp, split push comp, 1-3-1 comp. Certain solutions are going to beat out other people's solution because, I mean, you're playing against each other. So there's definitely a playstyle thing that plays into it. And another huge thing is mindset. If someone beats you again and again and again, in practice, it affects you when you go on stage. Like, you overthink things, you do stuff you normally wouldn't do, you kind of overplay, and they have a mental edge on you. The moment you stop or you're not 100% focused on the game and you start thinking with a person across, like, you start losing, and you start losing mental focus. And the one mistake you make or a mistake your teammate makes, like, everything falls apart. So, yes, like, I'm sure a lot of teams have that against Griffin. It's not just DAMWON versus Griffin like Thorin talked about. Anyone that goes against Griffin, there is a huge mental wall that you have to jump and you have to get over to be able to actually really match them and really play your own style. And I think that was like a Gen.G being Griffin was a great example of that. Like, where Gen.G is like, I don't care that you're Griffin. We have a playstyle that we came prepped with that we're going to run, and we're going to just fucking do it, win or lose. Like, we're expected to lose anyways, and they accomplished that exactly.
I also do think, though, like I said, like, the fact that those are like the underdog teams, they pretty much have to look for, like, again, it streamlines it. If you're fucking Gen.G and you're playing Griffin, well, there's only a few ways you could win the game. Like, for a start off, you must get Ruler onto a fucking hyper carry, you must protect him, he must get going in the game. Like, if all these things don't happen, you would have lost the game anyway. I told you it was close, those particular games they played. Secondly, if Griffin had just literally banned differently in the second game, it's way less likely they lose the game. So this is actually a bad part about being a team who's a playoff team, is when you're also, in theory, a good team, not as good as Griffin, but a good team, you also tend to play your own style to the global meta. You don't tend to do wacky things or try like one fucking weird snipe comp just to beat them in this one game, because you're trying to not just beat this, you're trying to be a better team yourself, you know. So as weird as it sounds, it's like, I mean, this is the reason why Koreans have always... There's always a history of a dominant team in Korea, because it's like the one weakness of Koreans is when you try to play correctly, it actually means that, like, the better team should win most times, because I do the correct move, you try to do the right response, but I know what's coming, so I do the next thing from that. It's like two chess players who have a similar style playing out.
So when Griffin prepares, they have to make up an opponent. They have to make up like we're playing versus a Chinese team. We're playing versus this evil Chinese team that we must face off in MSI, and they have a pretend opponent that they are practicing versus they're playing to beat. All the other Korean teams, they're practicing to beat Griffin, so you can be much more specific about it.
And okay, like, sorry if I'm going off a tangent a little bit, but Loco, so whenever I talk to Koreans, like, and them improving their performance, like, the number one thing that comes out for them is reduce mistakes. That seems to be like a
consistency,
consistency. Hey, we have to make less mistakes, and they're terrified of Griffin. And when I asked them why, because they don't make any mistakes, which wasn't the case with Gen.G and Afreeca. Do you think that's like the specific thing about Korea as a league, like that heavy focus on we need to reduce mistakes? That is like the biggest way to improve our performance.
A lot of, I would say, North America and Europe and even China to a certain degree embraces player individuality and player strength and what your players are good at, and you build towards the players you have, because you have limited amount of talent, and when you get really special talent, you want to embrace it and you want to enable that. Example would be like old CLG doublelift days. Even still, TL to a certain degree is a very doublelift focused team and plays around doublelift whatever the meta is. Or like what's a good example? Like Caps on G2, Caps on Fnatic, like caps are very enabled and you play around caps, like IG with Rookie and Deshai, where Korea believes there is a right answer on how the game should be played. There's 100% that is the optimal way of playing the game, and you should strive to play the game that way. And that's why we don't see very unique players. When we see players in Korea, like players like Khan, players like Peanut, are actually, I think, really rare, where they have very good strengths but also very big weaknesses. Because in Korea, you're encouraged more to cover up your weakness than to increase your strength, where in the other regions, they would just want to keep, making your strengths better and better, and don't really care about your weakness. Like, hey, Impact, you're not great on carries. Well, you should just be a tank player. Let's make you more and more of a tank player, and let's make Double Lift more and more of a carry. Where, yeah, in Korea, it's the other way around, where you try to balance out the team much as possible and be able to play multiple style, the correct style, the global meta, then embracing like the individuality of the players. Like on Peanut on Gen.G is a very neutered version of Peanut, in my opinion. And if you built their team around Peanut, he would not be playing the way he's playing on Gen.G. So,
oh, by the way, he did fucking pop off in those games against Griffin as well. Like, he had some really good mechanical players in that. Obviously, the Jarvan game was pretty good, but like, I even thought like the Zac game, he had some pretty good shit. Because there's not even a champion everyone associates with mechanics.
Anyways, yeah, Ash, do you want to speak more on DAMWON Gaming?
No, I think that's pretty much it. Like, we just covered like Nuguri and Flame and the whole top-sub jungle synergy. Like, we never mentioned Hoy, but I think he's a great upcoming, like, initiator-focused rookie support. Showmaker, like, I think he has a bit of a stage fright in, like, the first 4 weeks, but he's been truly popping off, especially now that, like, you know, AP Assassin's a bit more of a thing in the mid lane. Nuclear, he is, like, an above average, like, AD carry. I wouldn't put him in the same line as, like, the likes of Teddy and Ruler and definitely. Like, I don't think Nuclear has a higher ceiling as them, but you know, he does his job, so to speak. So yeah, like
thing is, like AD carry pool in Korea is pretty bad right now. It's got to be one of the weakest it's ever been.
Bang and Prey not playing is a huge deal. Go ahead.
It's good that like players like Ghost have popped up above expectation, but yeah, Prey not playing is a huge thing, and KT just doesn't have a bot lane, and it's just really terrible. Is that actually a good time to move on to KT?
Wait, I want to ask you one question, Ash, before we go. What do you think of Showmaker? Because Showmaker and Chobi, like right now it's like Chobi's here and Showmaker's here, but when they were coming in, they were like neck to neck, and people were talking about who's going to be better, Showmaker or Chobi.
When was this?
Like initially,
it was at the beginning of the split.
Yeah, beginning of the split with
beginning of the split. Like I think that he still has like, you know, quite like good, really high mechanical ceiling. It's just that Chobi can almost feel a bit more safe because he's got like pretty much until like I think Tarzan is very untiltable. Like even though we've seen him like stumble nowadays, like you know, Chobi has that mental safety net where like you know all my teammates have potential to carry, so I just have to do the best on my own part. And like I can't make a full judge of that because I've never seen Showmaker in his full potential, but I think he's got a very, very high ceiling, and he just had a bit of a stage fright, and like the losing streak really hurt the player's mentality during the time when it happened. So I think that Showmaker could actually have like similar ceiling as Chobi. I wouldn't say the same, but it's just like a different environment they're in. Whether they're in the #1 team in the LCK or like, you know, they're in a team of rookies who is still figuring their own playstyle out. I was looking for something, but I didn't find it in time.
Kind of a metaphor for life in many ways there.
Oh yeah, that's pretty deep. Yeah, wisdom of the Koreans.
Listen, we all run out of time. That's the problem. In fact, actually, I'll tell you an interesting anecdote. There's actually an amazing Michael Jordan quote that goes like that, where this just shows what a winner's mentality is like. Michael Jordan had a quote where he said, "I've never lost a game, I've only run out of time." Like, that's deep as fuck, because the whole point there is, like, he'd never give up. Like, even if he's in the game, he's down 50, he'd still think he could win. But, obviously, the game clock will eventually run out. There's a finite time you lose the game, you know, you will lose the game. But it's like, that's like a fucking sick mentality to have, if you can have that.
That sounds like something that CB Max would say. He's got some really,
I think
interesting
I think all really good people
totally.
in competitive scene are a little fucking crazy. I think Michael Jordan was a little fucking crazy. I think Phoebe Max is not a little crazy. Phoebe Max is definitely crazy. I think Faker's a little crazy. I think Bjergsen's a little crazy. Everyone that's like really fucking good and at the top of their craft is a little fucking crazy.
Oh, by the way, on since we did, I wanted to give a thought on that on the Showmaker topic. Right, this is where, like, you admitted, Loco. I mean, I'm going to go ahead and assume when DAMWON Gaming, like I said, wasn't even a top team early in the split, you're probably not watching many of their games, right? Maybe you just saw the perfect games early on, because I never saw Showmaker as some, like, mad fucking super sick. Like, the difference between him and Chovy was always like this, mate. Like, first of all, when they go head-to-head, it's not even a competition. Like, Showmaker literally curls up like you know when two dogs come and meet each other, they instantly figure out who's the top dog, right? And the other one literally has to like fucking put its tail between its legs and it has to like act like a coward. That's what he does in fucking lane when he plays against Chovy. Chovy's the fucking alpha. This motherfucker's just like, oh shit. And then secondly, he's mad inconsistent as a player. Like, he definitely has some really good pop-offs. His mechanical ceiling's high, but he's mega inconsistent. Like, if you want to look at this team before Flame got there, this team was like, Nuclear's a really consistent player and Naguri's a carry. That's it. Like, Showmaker was the liability. If he wasn't, then they'd have had 3 lanes, wouldn't they?
I think it was a lot of inflated stories because they were coming in from Challenger and they were looking hot.
Yes.
Like Canyon, Showmaker, and
That's weird because I've never seen Showmaker put in line with Chovy. I've never really seen that. So
that's why I say I think Loco just saw a couple of the pop-off games, and he
also another thing was LS hyped the hell out of Showmaker, and then I saw the solo queue montages, and I was like, okay, this guy definitely. I can see why he's really good, and I am hyped to see him. And
I can see why Ellis would hype him then, because often he goes on solo queue, which to be fair, all you can see is the mechanics, and you know it's hard to even figure out the decision making.
And then when they were going into the league, they were the two like the new rookie mid laners coming in, and then like with Faker's like downfall and like rookie mid laners coming in, that was also a storyline that's pushed like new generation, like and Showmaker was included in that, and just the result of what we got from Showmaker was very different from like kind of the storylines that I heard about him.
By the way, how weird is it as well? Sorry, go on. Do you have a point?
I'm like. Okay, I'm gonna sidetrack again, and maybe we move on to another team after this. But like, it's just so amazing that like every.
This isn't an interview, by the way. You can just keep talking, and then we'll choose when to move on. We're the hosts, like so. You just keep talking. We'll tell you when to move on and stuff. So.
Okay, like it's so amazing that we had Faker for like 7th year in LCK, and over the years we had so many mid laners that was dubbed the next Faker. Like, really, like, starting from Pawn, like, Rookie had that name for some point, and then Kuro had that name named off for a while, and then BDD came, and Yukao came, and oh my god, he's like the next Faker, and then as soon as 2019 started, like, people were trying to find, okay, who's gonna be the next Faker? Is it gonna be Showmaker? Is it gonna be Chovy? Now they're calling Chovy the next Faker. But it's just amazing that no single mid laner has actually truly stepped up to even near that legacy in any way. Like,
I think
we had like about.
That's just unfortunate phrasing. I know what you mean there, right? Like, how come, you know, in all this time there hasn't been one? But the problem is that's actually like a counterintuitive way to say it, because logically, if you are like not just the best player at mid lane, but like just the best player ever, and you were the best player for that many years, well, no one should come close. Like, it's the impossible task. It's like going to the very top of the absolute mountain. Like, no one. Remember, I always make this point, Loco, in my videos, because people don't think of it this way. I always say this point, right? Everything in League of Legends could have happened identically the same. All the same players could exist. Wei Zhao could exist. Diamond Prox, Froggen, fucking Soaz, Flame, Shy, Ambition. Every player could exist, but except Faker. And it would be fine. There would be nothing wrong with the universe. They didn't have to be a Faker, you know. Faker literally is like fucking Neo in the Matrix. He's just the one. There will never be another Faker. That's the mad thing. It's the same thing that happened with Michael Jordan, by the way. They famously did the same thing to him. Every good player that came along, they're like, LeBron, is he the next Michael Jordan? It's like there's never gonna be, dude, because the whole point is this is a guy who had it all. He had the whole package and the killer mentality and the right teams to win. He had everything.
But people
so that's the same thing.
People always want the newest and the
best. They want there to be, yeah, I get it.
People want the fall of Faker.
Sure.
People were dying to see SKT lose, and people were dying to see someone come in and take over Faker, because that was always been the circle. There's a great team, another great team comes in and crushes, and there's a there's a dynasty keep shuffling around, and people wanted Faker to lose, and people wanted new blood. And to speak on to Ashley's point, I think history kind of helped Faker so much. If the Exodus never happened, Samsung players and KT team, Samsung on the back of Mata and Deft and all the other Mata, Deft and Dandy would have made like a dynasty team that could have competed with SKT. And I think another dynasty that could have happened was what happens if KT stays with Cacao and Rookie in their prime and they keep challenging SKT. Because Rookie eventually like won Worlds on a Chinese team.
Here's all you need to know, right? I always say this. On paper, SK Telecom was impossibly dominant in the LTK era. In the actual games, they weren't. Like, Rox Tigers used to always be better than them in the split, and then they just lose in the playoffs because Rox Tigers were always like choking in the big game.
It was hard, yeah.
Even then, they were always having a contender. So you're right. If there'd have been 2 or 3 other really sick teams full of all the top talent, that would have been one of the most competitive eras ever, Season 5, if they'd have all stayed in Korea.
In a certain way, I think it was better that they left, and then we got this incredible legacy of Faker. Like, Faker's an absolute fucking legend. Like, as you said,
Sure.
he's the one and only, but his legacy got boosted by his rivals. Like, or there should have been rivals like competing with him in Korea.
Yes.
They disappeared. They went.
This is what's interesting though, because there's a side point I can make here actually, which is what's bizarre is even though Faker's now on one of the best teams again, a team that might win LCK as you implied, he's certainly playing very well. Actually, he doesn't do any of the old Faker shit now. Like nowadays, he actually plays semi-supportive half the time. He doesn't try and just pop off all the time. He doesn't try and carry the whole game because he's got such a sick team.
Well, the thing is, old Faker things are when there's a gap between Faker and the next mid. And then now...
No, but I mean, even if you look at Chovy has way more pop-off games than Faker, dude.
There's definitely an edge that Faker lost, and 2018 probably did a number on his mentality. So
I think he just doesn't need it as well, you know. You don't have to do that in this team.
Yeah.
All right, do you guys want to move on to KT or Gen.G? What?
Yes,
okay.
We will. No, I just like the way that, like, I won't make a big deal out of it, but like 2 or 3 times I've literally waited while you two talked for like 10 minutes, and then Ashley goes, I think we'll move on to this other team now. I'm saying, oh, cheers, right, I'll just fucking close this box down. See that? I'm off, mate. See ya.
Okay, sorry.
Change to Korean for the rest of the episode. See how many fucking viewers you get. Anyway, no, we can move on now. So here's the thing. I think of the teams out there, the team we've skipped over, we have to talk about is Sandbox Gaming. Because this team's fucking... They're going nowhere, mate. Come on.
Ashley, you go first. Lady first.
Oh, wait. You said
that means Loco doesn't have any great points. He's going to try and listen to what you're saying, and he's going, yeah, good point, Ashley. Like, yeah.
Editor, edit this part out.
Come on. Yeah, edit that part out. Do it. Listen, someone's going to make him look good. Come on.
Okay, so so I like that's again going back to Keen on how amazing player that is, because Summit was one of the underdogs who just appeared in like 2019, started having stage time, and in the world, this top laner is amazing. And where did it come from? Oh, he was like the sub top laner in 2018 who didn't get to play a single game, and yeah, you wonder why, because he was a sub for Keen. So like they just I feel that Sandbox, like when Sandbox started doing well during the beginning of the LCK, everyone expected them to fall off. Like, you know, people expected Griffin's dominance to continue, but the same people also said, hey, Sandbox is just having a good few matches and they're going to drop off. So it is true that the patch have hit them quite hard, but their like decline haven't been as like, you know, noticeable as people expected that to be. Like they still have a really good core team. Like, yeah, then the players are never gonna have as high a ceiling as a SKT, but what I really appreciate about this team is they always maintain a good teamwork. And I go back to this again and again, but Joker, who has a big age gap with the rest of the players, he has really good eye like the overall game, and the other players listen to him. And players who are younger but have really raw mechanics, such as the on-flick in the jungle and Dove in the mid lane, like they benefit from having Joker doing a lot of the shot calling and can be aggressive in an unbound way when they can want to. So Sandbox has always benefited from having this really good shot calling hierarchy and teamwork. It's just that now that the other teams are finding their teamwork, noticeably SKT and also Gen.G, that gap is closing. That surge of advantage they had from having really, really seamless teamwork is being caught up now. Well, that's my biggest thing about how Sandbox doesn't look as dominant anymore. But what do you think?
I mean, honestly, Sandbox is not one of the teams that I watch. They're not the teams with like the biggest names, so I'll take Thorin. Thorin can take the lead on this one.
Okay.
Yeah, the thing with this team is, like, first of all, again, because people were like, oh, this is the problem, people who don't watch Korea, is that because Griffin was so sick last year as rookies, everyone wanted to be like, oh, Sandbox and DAMWON is exactly the same. It's like, because, unfortunately, Westerners always think that Koreans are like all like fucking identical carbon copies, which they aren't. It's just there's a little bit more nuance to telling the difference between some of the teams, as opposed to the one good thing probably about LCS is, like, look how drastically different all the teams are and their composition, which players are good. Sometimes the gap between players is crazy. In theory, it makes it look a lot more colourful, but it's actually just because there's not as many good players. When you have a lot of really good players, and as we've discussed, they get coached by people with a mentality of like, this is the right way to play, you're going to get some uniformity. You're going to get some like hive mind thinking. But what makes Sandbox interesting is they were quite different to Griffin and some of the other teams. Like, they weren't trying to play perfect League of Legends. These guys are fighting all the time, all over the map. It actually was really sick to watch for like the first half of the split. They looked really amazing. But the problem is, I always tell you this, Loco. Anytime I see either a rookie or a team of rookies, I'm asking two questions. Which of these players will one day actually be a great player? Like, not just good now, but in a year from now they'll be good. And then that means I then have to ask the second important question. Who probably isn't actually good on this team? Like, who's just good now because no one's played them before? Who's good because it's their first split and it's the right meta? When you look at this team is a lot weaker than the fucking Griffin team. Like, the top half of the map, really good. Summit's a really good top laner, really good carry. I think I would say overall, Jungler's been pretty fucking good, I would say. I've seen quite a lot of good games from Fleek. Dove certainly is good. I don't know. There's a lot of good mid laners in LCK. It's hard to win at him. I think the bot lane is fucking garbo. Considering that they were the second best team in Korea for a while, this bot lane is trashed here. Now, if Ashley says that they have Joker in because he's older and he's shot calls, okay, that could be like, there could be benefit to that. There's times when you can have a weaker player, like I said with Sword, it can help your team. But that bot lane isn't particularly strong, and I don't think their AD carry is very good at all. So they had the right style to make up for that. Like, if you're just fighting and skirmishing all over the map, you don't have to have a proper 5v5 team fight. But I do think, like, they're the team that's gotten weakened the most over the last, 4 to 5 weeks. And I actually think in the playoffs, as I alluded to before, I think DAMWON could beat them. I think KZ could beat. I think they're going to be the team that does nothing in the playoffs, personally. And they've got rookies, which is also a killer if you're in any kind of dire straits.
I guess, I don't think, Sandbox, I have noticed Ghost fall up a bit during the recent matches, but I don't think it's just that Sandbox has terribly declined. It's just that Sandbox has always benefited having an early lead in terms of teamwork.
Sure.
And, that led them to have, a faster
yes.
skirmishes, and the other teams who started with, a new roster such as Kingzone and SKT, who in the beginning were hey, we're a bit confused about new roster, are now catching up. But Sandbox is already there, and they're already there, and yes. That means that that's their ceiling, so to speak. And now other teams are catching up, and they might even get overtaken.
Sandbox is basically what FlyQuest was in the LCS, where it's it's not that they got that much worse, but TSM got way better. The gap opened even more between team. It's just that's happened. So, that's the thing. Ghost is not a rookie. I've seen this guy play before, and it's not like he didn't get twice as good overnight. That means if you look way better on one team and you're way worse on another one, you're probably the same player. It's the team that you're on. That's what's changed. Everything around you changed. So as a result, you might not have been activated when you're on fucking BBQ Olivers or whatever. A team like this, where the whole top side of the map, like I said, is money. You can have a lot of fucking good games as an AD carry if the shot call is in your lane and the top half of the map's all the best players. That's a dream scenario.
Gen.G?
I was looking at Loco to say something.
Ashley's like, I can't speak up or Thorin's gonna get mad at me. Don't worry, I learned. You just speak up.
No.
You just get flamed. You're gonna get flamed regardless of if you speak or if you don't speak. So I just gotten used to getting flamed, and I just don't care anymore. Like there's a black hole where my heart used to be, where what is it? I'm supposed to feel emotion, and it's just
where my heart used to be.
Yeah, it's just I just take the flame, and then if I get flamed, I get flamed. It's part of doing a show with Thorin. You learn to grow thick skin. Like Reddit doesn't even bother me anymore. I'm like, oh Reddit, fuck you guys. Try doing a show with Thorin twice a week. That's much worse.
Exactly.
So let's start with Gen.G. Gen.G, I love what their company is doing. I love what is it? The kind of the facility they built, the kind of like support that they've been giving, and kind of like the English outreach that they've been having, and trying to be a big team. They're a Korean team that's picking up global like teams. They picked
Remember
up,
that the guy who was the owner though is from
Kevin
like
Chow,
Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
So that's why they've got that understanding of the Western market and shit.
They're probably the first Korean team ever to have like a Call of Duty team. And also like SKT is kind of doing the same thing with partnering with Fusion, or partnering with Philadelphia Fusion, and like they rebranded as T1, and they're picking up Apex players. Yeah, Comcast. So I love all that, but also Ashley, stop fucking with something. I can hear it on cam.
You're using a packet or something. No, did you mean to say an Overwatch team, by the way?
No, what is it? I meant Apex because SKT did get an Apex team, like in partnering with Comcast. But yeah, they also have an Overwatch team. Who is it? Gen.G. So I like what SKT and Gen.G is doing.
Soul Dynasty is what it's called. But yeah,
getting into NA and stuff. But they need to take care of business in Korea, because their team is one of the worst like GM'd in my opinion, where keeping Fly, just keeping like he's doing a lot better, and his Lissandra looks great, and just keeping Fly and being okay with him being your mid laner, and then picking up Peanut for the highest amount in LCK was not good roster building. It just simply was not good roster building. And I always feel like mid and jungle is the core engine of your team, and your mid and jungle has to function the correct way. And I feel like the money they spent on Peanut should have 100% gone towards mid lane. It should have gone towards a bidding war, towards BDD. It should have gone towards having multiple rookies that they can build up. And they became this like really weird, one-dimensional, bot lane oriented team fighting team. It's working somewhat, and they did beat Griffin with it, but I'm not sure what the future of this team is. I'm not sure like what direction they go.
All that needs to be said is they missed the playoffs by 4 entire series. You know, 4 series is like fucking a fourth of the games you play. So that like this was a terrible split, mate. It doesn't matter if you beat Griffin.
It's just GMing is bad. I don't like some teams. I don't think they fail during the season. I think they fail during off season. I think 100 Thieves is one of them. And for Korea, I think Gen.G is one of them. When you fail during off season, it's not that you didn't pick up good players. It's you spent money and your team is not where it needs to be. That's what I see as failure of off season. And you are also a great free agent destination. Who doesn't want to join Gen.G? This is an org that's one world, that supports their player really well financially, that supports their players beyond that financially also. Like when their heroes of the Storm team just fucking disappeared because Blizzard killed the game, they supported this team. Like, who does not want to join Gen.G? Who does not want to join Gen.G? Who didn't want to join 100 Thieves? They were great free agent destinations, and they fucked up the same way in not having a strong engine in mid and jungle.
Like, I remember the criticism, and there were a lot of criticism that Gen.G got when they were one of like the first team to get eliminated from Worlds. And the two biggest criticism they was receiving was, number one, they can only play the late game like team fight style. They only play around ruler, and they really impacted them heavily during the Worlds when it was all about skirmishes. Like, you know, mid lane actually has to play the AP carry now. And that brings to the second part where people were saying that they should have either not brought ambition or brought both Crown and Fly, or just brought Fly, and then have like high-res ambition, because they were commenting how, like, you know, Crown can have periods of like sick godlike performance and just being a very underwhelming mid laner. So I think Gen.G took those into like to their heart and try to play like work around those two criticism, even though it didn't necessarily come out right. Like, Peanut was supposed to come in to this team and activate the entire team to, like, you know, play more early game skirmishes, like, you know, basically what Clit is doing to SKT right now. like Peanut was supposed to be that person, and Fly was like, I don't know about the decision around Fly, because like now the meta is shifting, has stayed towards playing around jungle mid, and Fly has always been that bit more supportive mid laner who's like either poking or roaming around different lanes. So he can't. I've never seen him truly play like the mid game carry.
He's
so
not a true carry.
Yeah. So he either roams or he pokes. So that's like the playstyle I see Fly. But the biggest thing for me is Peanut hasn't truly melded into Gen.G or like brought the changes to Gen.G that we would have wanted. It could either be the existing teammates being too used to playing that late game teamfight stuff, or like, you know, I think Peanut has his very own way of jungling where he needs a lot of resource, which makes him slightly different from Clit, in fact. And that just like, and it just didn't meld well with Gen.G. I think it's one of those, but lately like in the end, like they couldn't play the early game style that they wanted, and their win condition has fallen back to late game team fights. That's what I noticed.
So I feel like them picking up Peanut is like, you're in a relationship. So in your past relationship, you always stayed in on Saturdays and Fridays, and you order pizza, and then you just watch Netflix. And then you want, for your next girlfriend after you guys broke up, you're like, I want some excitement in my life. I want to go out. I want to go out drinking. I want to go explore the world. And then you date someone that does like going out, and that's like very proactive and that's very social. And then you're like, oh, I'm so tired. I don't want to go out tonight. I have a lot of work to do on the weekend. And then on Saturday, you're like, oh, I don't want to go out tonight either. I'm not feeling it tonight. And then you're like, your girlfriend wants to go out, your girlfriend wants to do all these things, and you're still the same way. Like, you're just staying home, you're just eating pizza, you're just watching Netflix. And then like months into the relationship, you're like, what the fuck, nothing changed. We're still that couple. Like, we're still never going out. Like, my life is still exactly the same way. That's exactly what they did to Peanut. They picked up Peanut to be different, and they picked up Peanut to be more proactive early and play towards jungle. And they did none of that, and they just fucking shoved Peanut into what they wanted out of ambition. So why the fuck, like, would you pick up Peanut if you're just gonna force him to play your style anyways? Go a cheaper route. Pick up a rookie jungler if you're just gonna force someone to play the exact same way you wanted, and you're not gonna embrace anything of what makes Peanut Peanut.
Yeah, I would agree, because that's the big problem with this team, is that the big signing was Peanut. But like, I'm amazed how many Korean teams have fallen for this now. Like, here's the thing. I get it if you King Zone and you get Peanut, because they already had 3 winning fucking lanes, potentially. Or like 2.5.
And
like, I guess
familiarity with Peanut before.
It's also that's always been when he's at his best, when he has winning lanes. We know this guy, when he's behind, isn't going to like fucking path like a mastermind and like invade the opponent and know exactly what he's doing. No, he's just going to mechanically outplay people, pop off with ganks, and therefore, if you have the laners to support that, you can carry the whole game and just snowball the entire game. But they took him. Not only didn't they let him do that, because he couldn't have, they have literally no early game carry threats, because the only carry threat is the fucking AD carry, and he has to power up because he has to be on a hyper carry to win the game. And then you make him go, again, this is why Korean coaches actually aren't that good at coaching, Loco. They actually will tell a player like Pino, just do everything that's the opposite of all your strengths and be like a player that you were never anything like and think in a way that your mind doesn't work. Go ahead. And then they let him fail over and over again. They go, I don't understand. I'm telling him what to do. It's like you're telling a guy who like fucking speaks Spanish, everything in Chinese. He's going, what are you saying? It's like they're just saying it louder in Chinese. Like, you wouldn't know what the fuck you're talking about, would he? Like, it's just like, so if that's your first signing, you've already failed. And then secondly, you just lost Core JJ. Right? Anyone who's watching LCS now knows Core JJ is the MVP of the LCS. And that's despite the fact he's fucking playing with the previous MVP of the LCS, Double Lift. He actually alphas Double Lift. He's the better player in that lane with Double Lift. So you can't lose a player of that level when the bot lane was the best thing about your team and replace him with a fucking nobody, a complete bomb. That means you've even depowered fucking Ruler. You've made him less able to carry the game. This is a nightmare.
One thing though is, what's so surprising to me is they wanted to be different from last year, right? They didn't want to be a slow late game bottom oriented team fighting team anymore. So they let go of Core JJ because his shot calling and how he wants to play is a part of that, and you can see that on Team Liquid.
Of course.
You stay the exact same fucking way. You didn't want to be that team, and you literally stay the exact same fucking way. If you're gonna do that, why the fuck are you picking up Hino? Why did you let go of Core JJ? Like, oh, their decision just did not make sense. They wanted to be different, and they stayed the exact same way.
It's like the analogy you gave, the girlfriend analogy, because really the message from the story you were talking about there was, really the person was just a stay-at-home person. They just sometimes wanted to have some fun. So because the girlfriend they were with initially never wanted to go out, they started to, like, that's all they were focused on because it's the thing they didn't have. And so then they over-romanticize and think, oh, that's who I want to be as a person. I want to be like a fun, free-loving. But the point is, you just want to do that occasionally. And if you do that after a while, you're going to eventually realize, oh, this isn't who I am. Like, this feels uncomfortable as well. I'll give you the quick analogy that comes from FPS games. Because obviously in FPS games, unlike League of Legends, where like the skill shots aren't that advanced, FPS games are about precision. You have to be on this pixel here. Well, as a result, the thing that people obsess about in FPS games is the mouse sensitivity. In League, it almost doesn't matter, as long as you have it vaguely there. That's one of the reasons, by the way, as a quick aside, I actually think that MOBA games took over the world. Because you can play on a $1 shitty Chinese mouse in a PC cafe, and you can still be really good. You can't do that shit in Counter-Strike, mate. You'd never have a chance. The guy with the real mouse is going to be 10 times more accurate. So when you play in Counter-Strike, plebs who aren't very good at the game are always trying to find out, like, what's the top player's sensitivity? Oh, does he use a really fast one? Does he use a really slow one? Even though, by the way, as you'd guess, there's the total spectrum. You know, some pros use a really fast one and look really good. Some you might think look fast in the game, but they use really slow and they just have a really fast arm. So the point is, when the pleb tries to keep changing his sensitivity, thinking it's going to make his game amazing, there's a principle that happens, right? Which is, if you go, for example, from like a really slow sensitivity to a really high one, the same thing happens. Initially, when you play, you're just going to notice all the kills you'd get in the game that you never normally would because you use a really low sensitivity. You're going to hit some crazy flick shot, or there's going to get a guy behind you and you'll be able to instantly 180 him and you'll go, holy shit, I figured it out. I'm the best now. But you know what you eventually find is when you've played for like a few weeks, yeah, you gained something by having a high sensitivity, but you lost something as well. Like, you're probably less consistent than you only had the low sensitivity. Like, that's the problem with this team, is like they thought, oh, we're going to have Peanut, he's going to empower us all. Then when that didn't work, they were like, right, back to what we're comfortable with. Except now they have a worse team to do it with.
You have to go
like,
all
they're
the
where
way.
they should be in the league, by the way. This team is where they should be. They're a fucking bad team and they're not a playoff team.
Well, the thing they're... Or, sorry, Ash, go ahead.
Okay. That being said, I don't think their life is a total bomb. I actually think he's actually stepped up really decently, given that his, like, challenge was to fill up Core JJ's shoes. Sure, like, you know, I don't exactly know about what there's like a shot calling hierarchy in Gen.G, but maybe life shot calls less than Gen.G, like Core JJ used to. But in terms of just like him laning, him supporting Ruler, him initiating on champions like Gragas, like he's actually been top notch. I would say he's been one of the best rookies that stepped into LCK this season, so I'm not gonna give like life too much of a hard time, but I do notice that there was like a synergy mismatch between support and jungle, which I think is one of the most important conversations that should happen in the league. So that is a bit cold, but as a player who just stepped into league, I think that life has been doing a really great job.
I think the most overrated aspect of Peanut, and here's the problem, Loco, it's the most important part of being a jungler. This guy isn't a very intelligent player. Like, he's one of those players, right, where when I see him in doing any of the crazy shit that looks awesome, it's all instinct. Like, he's just got sick mechanics. It's like the difference. I'll give you an example, right? Even though Forgiven famously has very strong mechanics, if you just watched a VOD with him, mate, you'd realise how smart this guy is. Like, if you pause the VOD every 5 seconds in a team fight, he'll tell you, like, exactly where the target selection is going to come from the opponent, who he has to avoid to not get CC'd, like, what the efficient range he can go into. He could break that all down for you. Like, he's also a cerebral player. Whereas there are some players, like, I've seen this a lot from when Uzi early in his career, when he was just like a 16-year-old kid. That guy was just going off pure instinct and reflexes. If he was in a team fight, he's not dodging because he's perfectly gauged. He just fucking can do that. He can just react like instantaneously.
I have a really good example. Since a lot of our viewers are from NA, so do you guys remember when Spence Garum was on TSM team, where he talks about, like, I was kind of gated, I had to play according to like the TSM rules, and I was very afraid of like doing what I normally want to do and kind of being the player I want to be. And you saw like a very gated version of Svenskeren, and I think you're seeing that now on Gen.G compared to when Peanut was on Rocks Tigers and when Svenskeren is now on C9. It's very free flowing. They can play instinctive. The laners will play towards the jungler. And that's what Peanut needs, and that's what Svenskeren needs.
Well, you know what? You can even extend the analogy further, Local, because what people forget is the reason why they signed Svenskeren to TSM is because when he was in Europe, he was Peanut. He used to just go in the enemy guy's jungle, find the enemy, kill him, fucking just beat everyone with mechanics, and famously not ward. Like, there's another thing. If you're going to be a jungler and you're not going to be intelligent and you're not going to ward, you're going to have a fucking hard time, mate, making that a career.
I mean, you need your entire team to play around you. You need the entire team to play around you. And there was a time where Peanut had that on Rocks.
Of course. Yeah. The thing is, if it's his meta and he has the right team, he can look really sick. He can be one of the best jugglers. But the difference is, that's why people like Tarzan are like a level above no matter what. Like, if this team had score, they might be able to fucking do something. They don't. They have Peanut, unfortunately.
Yeah. Oh, the Gen.G, I think CEO followed me today on Twitter, so maybe he's watching. I don't hate your team, but the way you guys are, like, the vision for the team is, I think, just completely whack.
Who do you think is the shot caller of the team right now?
I don't think there is a shot. I'm not sure who the shot caller is, but I will say this. I see a lot of residue staying. So who are the people that are left? I know Ruler is left, I know Cube is left, and I know the head coach and the assistant coach are left.
And Fly.
I don't think Fly is really contributing to the identity that much because Fly came in later and Fly is just playing Fly style. And Fly has been on teams where it's been more jungle oriented, like Cacao on the KT Arrows team, right? I think it's from Ruler, Cube, head coach, and assistant coach because those are the players and the staff that's left, and the play style is still like staying. So I think it has to come from that.
Let's talk about fucking Kingzone, shall we?
Okay.
This is actually a team worth talking about. Because here's the problem, right? Like, bearing in mind, this show's been going on pretty long. I just vote that we just skip fucking KT Rolster.
We can touch on them, but briefly.
We can do a bit if you want, but I don't want to go like half an hour on that shit. It's just not really worth talking about. So let's talk about Kingzone, because this is a team where, interestingly enough, like I said before, part of the reason I made that bet is because, first of all, there was all these established teams that you would expect would at least be decent. Like one of the craziest things about Gen.G and fucking Afreeca is, despite the fact that they beat Griffin, they barely beat anyone else. Like, you'd at least expect them to win trade. Like in the LCS. Okay, the reason why the LCS was competitive is all the bottom, like, 7 or 8 teams were all beating each other all the time. So as a result, it was really, like, who knows who's going to be where next week, and it depends on the strength of your schedule, and did I beat this guy, so do I have to beat... In LCK, there's literally the most ridiculous stratification you ever saw. There was like top 2, and then there was like 3rd and 4th, and there was like 5th and 6th, and then there was just terrible teams below. And now, when we talk about the Kingzone team, they were one of the ones on paper I thought was very easy to dismiss because it was like sick bot lane, and what the fuck else did they have? Because remember, Pawn was coming off a terrible time on KT Rolster. He was really bad. Rascal's never been on top teams anyway. Cos obviously... famously was the guy who got hard flamed all the time, even when he fucking won LCK, which just shows how hard people can flame you if you're a Korean League of Legends player. And so you look at that lineup, we've just come out of Worlds where all the fucking solo laners are hard carrying the games. You'd expect that a team with the best players in the bot lane should have no chance. So I'm actually amazed how well this team's played.
But how strong their bot lane is, they're fucking strong though.
They're the best bot lane, mate. Yeah. They're the best.
Ash, you seem happy. Go ahead.
Oh, no. I'm gonna let you finish. Because I'm bad at this.
I don't have much else to add other than like their bot lane has been like fucking out of their mind.
By the way, how perfect as well is it that they were already a pretty good team, but they were like in the playoff race. Maybe they were going to make it, maybe they weren't. Then of course Ezreal became fucking meta, which is like Death's fucking second identity as a human. Like, he's unreal on Ezreal, mate. Still in season 9, he's a fucking god.
Like, I almost feel like Kingzone is like a reincarnation, like LCK reincarnation of like, was it 2015 EDG where like Deft really popped off in LPL? I just like see the reminiscence of it.
Deft and Pawn on the bottom oriented team.
Like, I'm just getting like those flashbacks with like Pawn, like, you know, like pushing side lanes and Deft going in, like flashing forward. But the reason why I rated this team really high is, I repeated this again and again, but when I look at teams that have a really good balance of veterans and rookies, I rate them pretty high because like rookies might come with better mechanics and this unbound like instinctive aggression, while the veterans might have like knowledge to pass down into the rookies and also come with better shot calling. And like just because you've played for longer, it doesn't necessarily mean you're a veteran. Like I wouldn't necessarily group Peanut into a veteran just because like, you know, I don't personally see him as like a player who might pass
down
like knowledge.
Yeah,
pass down knowledge, or like gonna be like a really like mature like.
The problem here is the word veteran
shot
does literally just mean that you did play for a long time.
Yeah,
so
but
like Peanut is a veteran.
Yeah,
but what your point is in English
experience.
oftentimes we associate the word veteran with a term called savvy, which means sort of like wisdom, basically. So I would agree on that. That's kind of the context you're saying it, right?
Yeah.
Like you haven't really gained like special experience, right?
Veteran comes with so much implication. Like you're a leader, you have a lot of experience, you can teach others. Like that's just the implication of being a veteran player when we talk sports or esports.
Okay, cool. Like so, I wouldn't necessarily put Peanut on this like, you know, veteran category, but when I looked at like Kingzone's drop, like, you know, Pawn and Thorin are actually like they play for a while, like they rarely ever tilt, so they have a lot of game knowledge to pass down.
Wait, did you just say Pawn rarely ever tilts? Did I actually hear that? Did someone inject me with like a new version of LSD?
As a player overall, like, you know, he never really
gave up. Listen, we can disagree. It's okay. We can disagree. Keep going.
Like, in terms of his performance, I think he can be quite inconsistent, but as a player in himself, like, he always tries hard. Like, he never really... Like, the opposite is prey, but I can go on about that. But, and I actually rated Rascal and Cuz pretty high in terms of having, like, really high ceilings. Like, they didn't get a lot of playtime in 2018 because there was Khan, like, well, obviously Rascal had to compete with Khan and Cuz had to compete with Peanut, and they didn't have a lot of stage time. But I thought that given a lot of stage time again, they had a lot of potential to grow, and there you go. Like, and another thing I'm gonna mention is like, Deft is a really aggressive AD carry, and Thorin is also a really great, like, really aggressive, good
best engager
support player. Good engager.
Insane fucking engaged player.
Yeah, and they are almost like going on this like a rope, but like doing like this tightrope thing. But this synergy somehow worked out, and I just love the aggression they bring to the bot lane. Like, you know, when other AD carries in LCK might just like play safe and hit minions, Dep just flashes in and Thorin flashes with him, like into the tower dive. And I think it's really great to see.
The team I really want to compare Kingzone to is KT, and I want to ask anyone before the start of the season this question: would you take Def plus Thorin and 3 average to below average players, or would you take Smeb, Score, and BDD and 2 average to below average player in bot lane? And which team...
Nobody would take Kingzone in that option there.
And
nobody takes Kingzone.
And Kingzone is third. Might even guess like Kingzone is like 4th or 3rd level, and KT is like, where the fuck is KT? So, I mean, that's literally
it's
what
like
happened,
I said though. Like the real massive difference maker on this team is actually Pawn. And here's the thing. I mean, I actually feel, mate, I think I have the exact opposite view on every aspect of what Ashley just said there. Like, this guy tilts like a motherfucker. He just does stupid shit all the time. The point is, you have to have a team where he isn't supposed to be the primary carry. That's why he was at his best on Samsung White. That's why when he was on EDG, because people don't know, the EDG teams he was on had a lot of fucking good players, a lot of veterans as well. Mm-hmm. Like, he's never required to be like the consistent hard carry. Like, if he loses the lane, he loses the game. No, he can do. And by the way, he does this in Kingzone now. He's back on his bullshit. Like, go watch the game they played against. Oh, who the fuck was this game against? Let me think.
Is it the game where he played Talon?
No, there was a game where I'm trying to think which game it was. Was it against Sandbox? There was the game where he just kept doing these utterly idiotic flanks, but they actually won the game from that. He would just sit in a brush on this side of... You know, on LCK, they like to use that the feature where you can zoom out of the map so you can see more of the map. Normally they only do it to show like a flank or like, you know, there's going to be like a skirmish over here and they want to show both parts of the map, right? They kept having to do the maximum zoom because while his team was like entirely on this area, like the bottom river, he was just sat in a bush for like 1 minute just waiting to see if someone would come. But in doing that, which by the way, no normal mid laner can do that. You can't just be AFK on the map and fog of war for minutes. But because the rest of his team is so good, he actually did in this series, I don't think, maybe it wasn't Sandbox, he did get off like 2 literally like borderline game-winning flanks as a result of it. Now, in what universe can the fucking mid laner be the one flanking Loco? The mid laner. It's a season 9. That doesn't even happen.
It depends on the comp. When you're playing Liss or Vlad, what champion was it on? Because there are mid laners that you play specifically.
Let me see if I can find what the game was.
Like if you're a Lissandra, if you're a Vladimir, if you're a LeBlanc, then you should be actively looking for flanks.
I'll see if I can find what it was. Anyway, keep talking.
Cars has been doing really well. Wouldn't you agree, Locodoco?
I think one thing that's really good about when your team is really strong one place and really weak another place is you can have an identity and it's like just set for you. When you have a lot of talents on the team, sometimes like you kind of have to figure out what you're gonna do, like kind of like SKT did. But with Kingzone, it's really easy for a jungler to play when you know the identity of your team already, like from the get-go. So I think that helps him a lot.
That's a good way to see it. Do you think that like Rascal stepping up and like, you know, previously he was like, okay, I'm gonna just try not to lose lane and not die until like depth somehow, like, you know, does the whole depth ending, carries the game like post 40 minutes. But now I've seen him become more proactive, like, you know, around playing carries, which aligned with the meta shifting towards it. Do you think that's also the case?
No,
well, not really. Is it just
no strong opinion, but I would say like being on a winning team helps a lot with confidence and being able to play other styles and be a little more experimental. And also when you have a backbone in Pawn and in Deft and Tucson and incredible team fighting, and as you said, Deft ending, like Koreans talk about it all the time, like Deft Kaiza ending. So like that's something you can always fall back to. So I think that gives them such a backbone where it makes it a lot easier on Cal and CODs.
Oh, by the way, I found the game it was when they played against Gen.G. So if you want to see some ridiculous shit, by the way, these are the champions he was playing. He was playing Lissandra in one game. The other game, Loco, he was playing fucking Azir.
Okay, that's not a champion you flank on.
Obviously, that's what's ridiculous. Mate, you should see the commentators in these games. They're just even going, why is he in that bush there? It's like, yeah, no one knows. I don't think even Pawn knows. Pawn operates on that principle of like, if I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, how can you guess? It's like, that sort of works, but you're never going to be the best player if you do that.
Ash, what was the thing that Pawn said that was really cocky? I remember like he had a quote recently that was like super fucking cocky, and I forget.
Oh yeah, there was up on Horizon, right? Like,
probably something like, I'm a competent League of Legends player who knows what I'm doing. Probably just said to her, like, I'm untiltable, you know, I'm a very consistent player, I know what I'm doing. She was like, all right, taking notes.
I actually have an interview coming up with Pawn. Like, I'm not going to spoil a lot, but he actually thinks that he can beat Griffin. But that being aside, that's a
This motherfucker.
I knew Pawn from the very, very start of his career because he was on this team called MIG Blitz that Woong made. It was like Woong's personal team. It wasn't MIG. Blaze and Frost. It was like a second generation MIG team. And Pawn had a different name back then. I forgot what it was.
It was called Hwansuk.
Oh yeah, Hwansuk. His first name. It was MIG Hwansuk. He told me this team's shit for him. I asked, like, cause I would come by and like watch and like talk to them, and then he privately told me like, I think this team's shitty, and I'm gonna join a fucking god tier team, and like I'm the next. He said stuff like I'm the next Faker, like I'm the next star player. Like he was really fucking cocky, and in a sense, like he did beat Faker, he did go to Worlds, he did win Worlds, so credits to him, and I can see where he gets his confidence. When you're young and you're super cocky, and you actually accomplish something, like that mindset and that like viewpoint of the world stays with you for a long time.
I think the quote that you're referring to is he wanted to put the nail in the coffin for Sun and Yukao.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Yeah. Because like they both used to play for KT, and then like Pawn is like, hey, if I didn't have any health issue, you guys wouldn't even have playtime. So I'm gonna put a nail in the coffin. Yeah,
dude, that's such a banger of a quote. Like, if I never had health issues, you guys would have never seen the light of day.
Problem is, he is completely wrong.
To his ex-teammates. Wrong or right, like, that is fucking banger, and then... Like,
it's a cool trash talk, but it is completely wrong. Like, Yukao was a lot better than he was in fucking KT. He basically hard lost that KT game. He'd seen so many games, it was unreal.
true or not, to
Really?
perform at his level, he needs to have that kind of cockiness.
You know what? I'll give you the analogy, Loco. Right? Pawn is like the Hoonie of mid lane. Because if you are going to play like Hoonie does, you better be the best player in the world. Like, that style is so abusive that if you're the best player, it'll be amazing. You'll stomp every fucking opponent, you'll roll them, doesn't matter the champion, and it'll be mega intimidating to the opponent. But if you, as you see for Hoonie this year, if you even slightly drop off, and Hoonie obviously dropped off a lot, you are going to be a mad liability to your team, because the same shit that makes you snowball the game, when you fuck it up, snowballs the game for your opponent. So that means you're like the guy in solo queue, right? I'll give you the analogy I always give. So the reason why it's a good analogy to give to a top laner is, you know when you're an AD carry in solo queue, and you're like, right, tough matchup in lane here, but if I just do well, okay, I'm only down 5 CS, okay, I'm getting on my second... What the fuck? All of a sudden, right, in comes like a fucking Katarina. You're like, what the fuck? What? How is she 5-0-1? Like, what are you guys doing? It's like, you feel like it didn't matter what you did in the game, because this asshole lost you the game before you ever met any of the champions. That's like what playing with Pawn was like some of the time. Like, either the shit he did looked genius and worked, it looked like, holy shit, he wasn't even now primary win condition, he's popping off already. Or he would just hard lose you the whole game. Like, you would just int, do stupid ass engages, play champions he couldn't play, and so... I can't. It doesn't surprise me he's cocky, but like he's totally delusional in that sense. He's not even connected to reality.
Honestly, I think if he was more connected to reality, he wouldn't be as good of a player as he is.
Yeah, he wouldn't do the same shit. Yeah,
you need to have that kind of insane belief in yourself to succeed as a player. So
sure, props
to him. All right, let's go to KT. Or any final thoughts on Kingzone?
Not really. I mean, let me have a look. Let me just see. Because obviously the thing with Kingzone is they basically are going to play whoever comes up through the gauntlet, and then if they win, they get to play SK Telecom. So the real question is this. Can Kingzone beat SK Telecom?
No. I think final stage is already set for SKT Griffin. What do you think, Ash?
I'm looking forward to that. Yes.
It's
SKT versus Griffin final.
I think I need to like watch a little bit more, and I also need to be more analytical about it, but just the storyline setup of it and how much attention both teams get make it so hard to not focus on that storyline of old kings versus new kings, like the old dynasty versus like the new upcoming dynasty, like Faker's return to his throne, like Tarzan and Chobi challenging Faker. There's just so much storyline that goes into SKT versus Griffin, Faker versus Chobi, that it's really, really hard to stay away from. Like, Teddy finally getting on a good team, and Teddy finally like maybe having a shot at winning. Like, there's just so many things that go. Like, I feel like there's two main characters in SKT and Griffin, and we're just ramping up to that.
Yeah.
All right. Right, let's move on then to KT Rolster. Because here's the thing: whereas the Kingzone team, it had some players had to play better than they did in past seasons. The depressing thing, Loco, about the KT Rolster team is, I even agree with the way you set it up. Like, even though we didn't, remember, when they initially announced this roster, they didn't even have an AD carry. It wasn't that it was like the person they have now. They didn't even have one. But at the time, it was like, who cares? Just put anyone in there. Like, if you have this fucking top half of the map. Remember, Smeb and BDD, I think they've won like 4 MVPs between them. These were literally like god solo laners. So you look at them and you go, right, well, there's the fucking solo lanes already. And remember, we just came out of Worlds where it was all solo laners. Then your jungler, you've convinced Score to come back, and he's obviously like the best fucking path in jungler.
Before Tarzan, he was the best. Before Tarzan, he was the best by far.
So you look at that. That should be the dream top half of the map. Like, I guarantee Smeb, when he thought BDD was coming, was like, that's it. Doesn't even matter who the other players are. Like, this is it. I'm gonna win LCK. Like, it's gonna happen for me. They are fucking terrible. Like, the player who has dropped off the hardest, Loco, is fucking Smeb. It's depressing watching him this season, mate. Because the problem is, he even gets some of those carry picks. You're like, right, this is it. Smeb's going to go off. And he just doesn't. And some of the people he's losing to are people way below the level Smeb's supposed to. Like, he's supposed to be one of the absolute best in the whole world. Like, I'm supposed to be like, I can't wait to see him versus the Shy and fucking Zoom and all these sick LPL. You're never going to see him versus these players. This team's a wash.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually a tragedy. Like, BDD, Smeb, and Score being on a team and not being in playoffs. Like, it's such a fucking waste of
And
talent.
it being Scores last year. That's so depressing.
And BDD was Chobi before Chobi. BDD was the new, what is it, mid laner that was challenging Faker. Yeah, he was the new Faker before the new Faker. Now what is he? I mean, he had that nice Yasuo play recently, but
he has a couple of good games still, but even he's had his problems, mate.
Yeah. And also, the thing about KT was when the roster was being built, everyone thought it was going to be Prey at the end. They were like, oh, man, everything's getting set up nicely for Prey to join KT, and then we're going to have Smeb, Prey, BDD, and Score. Holy shit, look at this team. And Prey doesn't join, and then this team's falling apart. Like, it's just...
Dude, it's time for the Korean teams to actually, like, convince some of these Chinese players that are in LPL that are Korean to come back. Like, people don't know how many good... Like, first of all... I tell you immediately a player I'd love to sign if I'm KT Rolster. You know Mystic from Team World Elite? Dude, that guy carries all the games. He's a fucking stud. And he plays all the meta champ. Like, he would be a dream player for this team. He would instantly complete it. Yeah. Even your old mate Imp is still out there. He still plays, you know. He's not bad. He's half decent.
But there's teams don't want to shell out money, and they always feel like they can go rookies. Like, that's why you have rookies on KT, because... They feel like we don't need to shell out. We already shelled out for Smep, Score, and BDD. We're not going to shell out. They didn't get the right rookie,
put it that way. It's hard, to be fair. That's the reason why I personally don't like rookies. It's too hard to guess if they're going to be good. Like, it doesn't matter how skilled they are in solo queue. Just never shows up sometimes in game, you know.
Much better bet in Korea than other regions, but yeah, still in Korea, it's a risk.
Yeah, I agree. The two best regions for rookies is fucking EU and Korea, just historically, if you look. So, I mean, it makes sense as well with the size of the regions. Okay, give us some thoughts then on KT Rolster, Ashley.
Okay, so everyone's like commenting how okay, so I do agree that Smeb has fallen off so hard, and as a Shanex old Rocks fan, it just really hurts to see what the hell are you doing, Smeb? Where are you doing? But everyone's like saying that okay, so this team lacks like an AD carry, but that kind of made people turn a blind eye onto the fact that Snowflower hasn't been good, and he's not a support player that should be teamed up with a rookie AD carry. Like Snowflower had like a really good season with you know, he had like a really long relationship with Sangyun. Sangyun is like a very smart thinking kind of AD carry, like who does a lot of shot calling, who makes his own decision, who like, you know, makes like a team wide plays. And Sangyun, like Snowflower is more like a blind initiator. He has like great Rakan, like, you know, he's like in a way similar to Tucson, even though, but with an AD carry who's also a rookie and who's just focused on, oh my god, I should not die, I'm just gonna, like, you know, try to last hit minions and, like, you know, win those 2v2 engages. Snowflower falls off hard. Like, I feel like both Zenith and Gango are like Ghost style. Like, who's really just focused on laning and like doesn't really think about anything beyond like his duty as an AD carry. And remember what happened when Ghost was teamed with another initiating heavy support Ignite on BBQ Oliver's, that bot lane just completely fell apart. And it's also about the synergy or playstyle between the AD carry and the support, and that synergy doesn't exist on KT Rolster, with Snowflower being like a not. I have heard that Snowflower is not a big shot caller, and like, you know, Snowflower not being a great shot caller and just being an initiator and having a complete loot rookie who doesn't know what the fuck is going on. Like, might be good on mechanics. Like, the fact that Gango is good on Draven says something about his playstyle, but Snowflower and Gango together doesn't work. Like, just falls apart completely.
Well, I hope Smeb doesn't do a retirement run in China or NA. I hope he stays in Korea, and I hope he actually improves. Score has to go to Army. There's no way around it. And I hope KT reveals around BDD properly and actually gives BDD a place to shine. And also, KT as a brand and KT as a team has a lot of meaning in Korea. They are the SKT rivals, and it's kind of like TSM CLG. Like, it's even older than TSM CLG because it transcends games. Like, it started in StarCraft, and it's been in Counter-Strike, Sudden Attack, it's been in League of Legends. It just transcends everything in esports in Korea, like KT versus SKT, the telecom wars. And KT in this state is bad for League of Legends in Korea. And I really hope there's a turnaround somewhere.
Because that's the craziest thing to me, is that, remember, literally, these three teams were the teams that went to Worlds. KT Rolster, Afreeca Freecs, Gen.G, all three teams are fucking bottom feeders. That's how badly they all played the off season.
And also,
Like, I mean, I don't know how you're supposed to predict that.
We didn't think we didn't think Sandbox would be this good. We didn't think.
No, you couldn't know.
Maybe
that.
we thought. Maybe some people thought Griffin would be this good. DAMWON has been like a pleasant surprise. Like there's been teams like that turned it up. The only people that we really expected at the top that were like, oh, we knew that team would be there, are probably SKT and Griffin. Everything else, I think, has been a really big surprise.
And Gen.G being at the very bottom.
Yeah, Gen.G, all these teams. Oh, man. Ashley, do you watch China a lot?
Pardon?
Do you watch China?
I watch a fair bit. Well, I watch a fair bit, but I'm not gonna say I watch it as much as LCK.
Okay. I'm kind like, now that we are finished with the team, I mean, obviously we're not going to talk about Janair. The big question, do you have something to add?
What do you guys think about like because KT is most likely to go to relegation at the moment. Do you watch Challengers Korea?
No, I don't watch Challenger.
Of course he doesn't. If he doesn't watch the bottom of LCK, there's no way he watches Challenger Korea, is
there? One thing super entertaining about Challengers Korea that I wish happened for Academy and LCS is, so Cloud Templar and Pittor and Tangun, these are like LCK casters that are like fucking hilarious. Like they stream Challengers and they have a show around it too. And it's so fun to watch. And I watch that show, so sometimes I'll go back and watch Challenger games, but they make it so fun to keep up with Challenger Korea, where in NA, like, I don't want to keep up with Academy because some of the casters that they have for Academy is garbage, and also they don't even have an official Riot stream, and it's just based on like what the teams are willing to provide. Like, so for example, Golden Guardians just plays the feed of their Challenger team, and there's no casting or anything. It's like absolute fucking boring, and they're not investing anything into it. Cloud9 has some kind of a caster setup, so that's more entertaining to watch. Like, it's just not very watchable in NA, where in Korea it's so fucking watchable. Like, there was this Challenger Korean team, Birian Blade, where their jungler picked Zac.
Brian Blade?
Yeah, Brian Blade, where the jungler picked Zac, and he started Ignite Flash, and he couldn't remake, and he had to play the entire game without Smite. And not being able to buy a jungle item. So he was behind in XP. He was like level 3 when the enemy jungler was level 6. And it was so fucking enjoyable to watch due to like the casting and like the story behind it, where I went back and checked out that game, where I would never do that for NA Academy.
Yeah, like it just happens because Cloud Templar is such a workaholic. Like I don't think he actually has like a single rest day. He casts LCK 2 or 3 times a week, and then he decides to cast Challengers on other days, and he has his own podcast.
I know the reason why. Do you know the reason why?
Because he has 2 kids.
Why?
Because he has a wife and family. Like I have a mate, in Counter-Strike, there's a team that in the CSGO major recently just made the final. It was a massive upset. They were a Finnish team called ENCE, right? And one of the founders of this team was a guy who was like a friend of mine when he used to be a pro player like 15 years ago. He's called Nartu from Finland, right? And when he got like, over the last like, I don't know, 5-10 years, he's had like a whole family, and he's got like, I think like 3 or 4 kids. He's been married to this woman for quite a long time. And he even told us, no joke, he used to look forward to coming to events and being like an analyst with us in CSGO.
To get away from his family?
About it. Yeah, we all complain because, you don't get any sleep, you're in a different time zone, the food's all there. He was loving it because it was like a chance to be away. In fact, he used to say, because he had all these babies, he was like, it's actually the only time I can get any fucking sleep is in a hotel room. So it's like, Cloud Templar's just like, yeah, sign me up for that. Yeah, what, Saturday as well? Yeah, Challenger. Anything else? Can I be on one of those variety game shows? Did you ever see, by the way, Loco, as a random aside, when Monty went on one of those like TV shows where it's like a one where they had like one of the casters, I think they had like Kim Carey or something. It was like him, Kim Carey, someone else. Do you remember this? And they had to go and play League together.
Yeah.
And all that happened was because Monty hadn't played.
Yeah,
because Monty hadn't played League in years and years. All he did is just play support, and he played Leona. Because obviously, if you play versus noobs, like you just lock them up. And it actually was sick. Because here's the thing: obviously, the one thing Monty had going for him is he did understand macro. So all he does in this game is he looks like a god dude because he just carries the whole game. He just goes from lane to lane, sets all the ganks up, like comes in. It was really sick. And obviously, you can tell after that, like he was just going to be like, yeah, I retire from these shows now, like after like one good game ever, just to make himself look sick. It was pretty funny because I always tell people that, a lot of people don't know that. When they hear, oh, there's a whole channels for esports, there isn't. There's whole channels for gaming. Like, yeah, League of Legends is played, but half the programming is like fucking comedians playing League of Legends and people playing League of Legends for fun, and that girl who used to be the interviewer just playing League of Legends and shit. Like, half of it's like variety entertainment, and then yeah, they have LCK, which is like big time, but the rest of the program is like fun programming usually in Korea.
I mean, OGN recently had
and mobile games and shit, you know, that sort of stuff.
So OGN recently invited streamers to their studio to run like a kind of a Afreeca streamers, like play League of Legends with like the fans that are there, and you get to like meet the streamer. Like, it's like OGN knows how to do entertainment around gaming, and it's always been like it's been about gaming, not just about esports. So I don't think
it's like the lifestyle as well. Yeah, that's the part that people don't understand in the West, Loco. It's like that's the reason why you know people who are haters of mine on Reddit always go with the angle of like, it doesn't even talk about the in-depth strategy of the game. Nobody wants that. That's such niche content. I wish that was the most popular content in the world, and I would just stick in CS:GO and I'd just read fucking articles from Kelsey Moser and Monty, and I'd do that. Nobody gives a shit. What people want is to be entertained. Now, if you can entertain them and inform them about the game, they'll enjoy that. That's why they like Papa Smithy. If you can just be really entertaining, you don't know that much about the game, I would say people like Riv done a good job of this. Quick Shot, they've mastered that aspect, but you've got to be entertaining. That's the number one thing you have to be.
That's slight shade at Quick Shot at Rivington. You just had to throw that
It's not
out.
in any way. Dude, Quick Shot would... Do you remember when we had him on the episode? He even said, like, oh, I've done all my notes and research. It's like, dude, it's a talk show. Like, you don't have to do notes. Like, but the point is, you know, he doesn't make himself the analyst.
Oh,
There's definitely no shade at fucking Rivington, mate. That guy's no League of Legends expert. He knows that. He knows which way his bread's buttered. He's the voice of the game, isn't he?
Ash, anything else you want to talk about for Challenger Korean teams? I know you wanted to talk about them a bit more.
The only thing is, like, we might have to face with the reality that like KT or Afreeca might actually get relegated by being defeated by like Challenger's team, because
are they
they have to
good?
go through whole promotions, right?
Are
Yeah,
they-
they could. Like, they're pretty good, and I'm just gonna bring attention to two teams particularly because you might recognize some of the names. Number one is Sharks. So their lineup is, I'm just gonna double check. On the top lane they have Jisoo, who used to play for Brazil for a while, and in the mid lane you have Kuzan, the former mid laner for Jin Air, and the whole team has been playing around mid a lot, and then like he's been godlike on pretty much every champion. So they've been dropping more games recently because people realize that if they camp Kuzan and mid, the whole team kind of falls apart because the other teammates are a bit more rookies, but still quite strong at the moment. So I think ES Sharks is a decent team, and another team that is pretty cool is APK Prince, and
That's the Cacao Mickey team.
yeah, that's the Cacao, Mickey, Ixu team.
Is that the most fucking ham team ever then? Because those are two players who just go forwards the whole time.
Yeah, and like Cacao's been doing decently, and like ES Shark was dominating the challenges earlier in the season because, you know, like Kuzan was pretty godlike and he can play around the team, but when Cacao and Ixu and other players started finding more of their teamwork, they've been winning more games, so they could be another strong challenger. And if someone asks me, hey, what's gonna happen if this KT Rolster right now, who's already quite tilted, goes against APK Prince, I don't know what's gonna happen, so we might just come up with the sad reality of Score in this legendary jungler in his last game of, like in his last year of professional gamer, goes to Challenger's career, and that's gonna be so fucking sad to see.
Usually in relegation matches, the team with the best player wins in like super chaotic, like super like non like macro focused game, because the best usually just the best player wins. And they still have BDD, and BDD is still good. So yes, it's gonna be scary, but I would still take KT over any of the Challenger teams without even having watched the Challenger games.
Okay.
Do you think
You
it's
know, like Cacao for me is like one of the ones where that's like a lost player to me, because you know I always make this point to you, Loco, that I have sort of a little list. I'll probably do like an article on this or sort of video one day, where here's the thing. LS's whole thing is like, you know, he can spot the guy in solo queue before he's a big player, and he tries to tell you, I know who the next big player is. And by the way, he's got a pretty good track record of doing it. I've got to give him credit. He's picked out some amazing players way before anyone knew them. I would say my strength is I'm really good at knowing the players who can withstand meta shifts. Like, I was telling you guys half a decade ago, Soaz would always be here. People like Froggen will always be relevant if they're on decent teams. Go down the list of all the players I always pick, right? I would have bet you so much money that Cacao would have been one of those players. Because when he was in Korea, especially at the end, or when he went to the Korean exodus to China, and still was pretty good initially in China before he dropped off, this guy was like a fucking genius player. This was the guy where, like, so the reason why the whole Cacao versus Dandy argument was so interesting is because Dandy's job is service the whole fucking, he's like Score now, basically, if you never watched the old school Samsung teams. Service all his lanes, which are all sick players, and win the game off that path perfectly, do all that shit. Cacao was the guy who literally was just the carry jungler. Like, he comes to your lane to get a kill on himself so he can then go and get more kills elsewhere and take over the whole game. Like, when that KT Arrows team won that OGN title, the problem is, I made a video on this. If you look back now, you'd go, what a sick team. You got fucking Someday, Rookie, Arrow, Hachan. It's like, no, it wasn't a sick team. That was probably the worst team to ever win OGN or LCK. Like, that team shouldn't have beaten Samsung Blue. But Cacao fucking hard carried some of these games. This guy was a monster back then. So the fact that he literally had years where he was just nothing, doing trash, he was like stuck in like second league of fucking China. That was so depressing, dude.
I think
he should have been a legacy player.
I 100% agree with you on, what is it, KT Arrows being the underdogs versus Samsung Blue, and if that matchup happened multiple times, Samsung Blue would probably come out ahead. But people rewrite history afterwards, and they're like, "Oh, look at Arrow, he won MVP in NA.
Exactly.
Look at Cacao and Rookie, like Rookie ended up winning Worlds."
Separately, they all became really good after that. Yeah, that's the thing.
They were very one-dimensional team, and they were good at what they were good at. They kind of remind me of who's a good team to describe them. Very jungle focused. They were a very jungle and mid lane focused, very mechanical heavy team. I can't think of a team off the top of my head right now, but they were that kind of team, and yeah, they upset Samsung Blue, and I think people rewrite history about that. As for Cacao being an evergreen player that's not dependent on meta, evergreen player that's not dependent on meta. I'm not sure how good his tank play and his stability would be in like those really tank required meta for jungles, because he's someone where I can give him a lot of credit for aggression, a lot of credit for early game pathing, a lot of credit for creativity, but I'm not sure if I can give him credit for patience, team fighting, scaling, control. I would say he's a player with a lot of strengths, but also a lot of clear weaknesses.
I also think it was a mistake for him to go abroad, because if you're the type of player that he is, it's the same reason why I hope Peanut never goes out of LCK, because a player like that who wants to like carry the game from the jungle, you have to have amazing communication with all your lanes. Like, you can't just be like, I know people would think the opposite. It's counterintuitive. You think, well, if you have really sick mechanics, you could just go elsewhere. It doesn't matter if you can't communicate. You pop off, right? No. How's that going to happen when the guy's speaking Chinese and you speak Korean? How's that going to happen when you go to Europe and like they're speaking English and you barely speak English? It's not going to work. You'd be better staying in Korea.
I think Peanut goes to NA next year. I think
probably does, but it's a waste of time. I mean, here's the thing. To be fair, NA's level of jungling is low enough. He'll probably be pretty good, but it's depressing because he should. I'd rather he made more of himself as a jungler in Korea.
What team is going to allow Peanut to be Peanut? I think it's going to be so rare to find that kind of team, and people.
They just have to build around him completely.
Would you rather build it around Peanut though? Like, I would rather build around players like.
I think here's the thing. It's easy. This is the problem with Peanut always Loco, is he's such a night and day player that when he's doing badly, you go, fuck this guy. But when he's doing sick, he looks like the best player in the world because it just looks amazing. So I kind of agree. If you make like, here's the thing: if they really do wipe the deck in KT and they go like, okay, it's like BDD plus one other. If you go BDD Peanut and then you get the right players around them, that could still be a pretty good team. Because obviously there'll be no score, remember? That's a nice jungle mid. And they played together in the past, yeah.
I have a random question, if that's okay.
On this show, I don't know if you're aware, but we just take digressions all the time anyway. Like, you don't actually have to ask permission. You just go on a digression anytime you feel.
Can I just be me? Like, can I just be like this, like, passive nice
person? I'm going to break you out of this shell. That's the opposite of an identity. That's being very Korean.
Can you just be me? Anyway,
I'm going to make you grow.
So you say you are good at, like, you know, telling which players are going to be evergreen.
Sure.
So I'm going to pose this question. Out of Griffin, can you order them by how evergreen they think?
Sure. Well, sadly, unfortunately, this is like actually not that difficult at this moment because you've seen some of the losses and like they've shown some problems. I think here's the thing though, go back in time at the beginning episode that we did with you when it was the roster, and I basically did this. I said, like, the best player on that team is Tarzan. He's probably the best player in the whole world, not even the best jungler. That guy could literally play for... He's one of those guys, like I'm saying, he could play for 10 years if he wants to. Like, if you're that smart, you're never going to be bad at this game. And he's got the mechanics. Like, that's just unreal. I already personally always thought Chovy was like the best laner on the team. I thought Viper got very overrated just because everyone remembers the LCK final where he was getting Kai'Sa, and it's like, yeah, that's right in his wheelhouse. That's exactly the sort of thing he's good on. So I would go Tarzan by far. Chovy, I think, will be a great player going forwards, but as we alluded to before, he's kind of like BDD. He'll probably just be a very good player, and if he has the right team, he can be good. Viper, it's a big drop-off, but it goes to Viper. I actually don't know if Viper will survive that long. I could see him, if this team ever breaks up, being like a middle-of-the-pack AD carry. Like, good player, but not that sick. And then the rest of them, I don't even think are that good, even on this team. Like, I think Lehens is okay, but as we've seen, when he wasn't on Engage Champs, not that great. And Sword, he just works for this team. Like, this is the best possible team Sword could ever be on. He could never be on any of the top tier, in my opinion.
I think that goes for every player to a certain degree. You know, they are never going to be on a team that's better than Griffin because of how good Griffin is. It's really hard to say for Griffin.
No.
Really?
No. Mate, Tarzan 100% could be on a team that was better than Griffin. Griffin isn't the best team of all time, you know.
They definitely are not, and they definitely haven't proven anything. They don't even have a championship to their name.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You know, I agree that they've looked really good, but like, for all we know, here's the difference, right? My point with Sword is as an individual player, he's not that great. So you put him on another team, right? What other teams are you going to be as good on? I don't think you can name one. He's on the perfect team for him. The difference is, mate, I could take Tarzan and put him on put Tarzan instead of Clid. What, is SK Telecom not now completely going to dominate every fucking thing in the world? Of course they are. They probably win everything local. Put him on a Chinese team. Put him between fucking Deshai and Rookie. Let's see how IG does. They'd wreck everyone, wouldn't they?
That'd be so scary.
Be insane.
All right. Any other topics you guys want to hit?
I think that's it. We've done quite a long.
Okay. Ashley,
whatever. Listen, two things about this episode. Last thing to say. One, this is you guys believe in feminism, right?
Yeah.
The dictionary definition. Like the dictionary definition claims it's in favor of equal rights, right? Well, if equal rights is, by the way, a terrible idea. You should treat everyone differently, regardless of their gender. Like, you're supposed to treat people based on who they are as a person, but it's a terrible concept. But if you want equality, this is what happens when you get equality. I have to flame the girls as well. That's what happens. You like equality now? No. Let's go back to the old system where we had chivalry, we were polite towards women, and then we just flamed people like Loco. We directed all the flame to him. I like that world better. Secondly, I am literally paying for flight tickets for her to go around the world, so I think I get to do a bit of flame. There we go. It's like a carbon emission offset. I have to flame enough that it makes it worth it that I paid for the tickets. There we go. That's the end.
I actually don't feel like I was getting flamed, but okay.
Ashley, do you want to make your announcement?
Whatever.
So number one, so you guys might have seen a lot of the interviews that I've been churning out through ESPN Esports and Horizon, and I think they've been getting really good traction because right now they're like pretty much the only video interviews from LCK that goes out there. I've just been told that for playoffs, that I wouldn't have any sustainable coverage on it. So I can always put them up on Horizon, which a lot of people don't know, but it's currently still a media outlet that I run by myself. So I'm just going to put it out there. I'm going to start looking for outlets that might be interested in video interviews from LCK during the playoffs. Like if you want like a sick faker post-match interview after that Griffin versus SKT that goes to 3-2, tell me about it. So that's my first announcement.
I'll message you after this. I've got someone who might be able to help you on that.
Oh, really? Okay, awesome. Thank you. And the second thing is I have officially kicked off looking for assignments for MSI. I can't wait for that anymore, so I can either go as an individual or I have teamed up with... Do you guys know Max? Atlas? Max Anderson, yes. One of the LCK casters.
Yes. I'm not on first name basis with him, you know. I just only know him professionally. So.
And I just realized that there will be so many Maxes in esports, like, you know.
I was like, wait, TSM Max, the videographer? I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah. And we also have a player called Max, but whatever. So I'm looking for assignments as an individual to go to MSI, as well as we have a team where me, as a Korean interviewer, Max, who's super fucking charismatic and interview pretty much anyone who speaks English, and a videographer can do like a whole video coverage of MSI by ourselves, given that I also already have my own equipment and I can handle myself. So if anyone who's watching or anyone who knows someone who might be interested in either a Korean interviewee on camera / translator or an entire team who can do like a coverage of the entire MSI, let me know. Why are you laughing, Loco?
Well,
I'm giving a serious speech, and then
the thing is, what if I wanted to go to MSI, and what if I asked for sponsors for MSI, and you're literally advertising it on my show? You already talked to me about it. You already talked about it before, and I don't have plans to go to MSI, so I'm okay. I just found it funny.
Yeah, basically, Loco is such a great friend. What he's telling you is, if he ever wants to, he can just scoop right in there and pick up your breezy anytime he wants, because he can speak Korean and English, and he's vaguely charismatic. So anytime he wants, he'll just shut your whole operation down. So you only exist at the mercy of Loco right now.
That's not what I'm saying. What the fuck?
So pledge fealty to Loco now, and he will allow you to keep working in the esports industry.
No,
I don't feel like that's a frame, because that's obviously not true.
Wow, Ashley. Okay, editor, we're editing this out of the YouTube. Fuck you.
End on that note. Leave that in though, editor. End on that note, and then make it like, no. What you need to do is do the classic one. Do the black and white screen with the glasses come down, the Thug Life music, and then end the episode.
All right. Well, Ashley, thank you so much for being on. This part won't be in the episode. I hope you had a good time. I hope you enjoyed getting flamed by Thorin. Usually the guests have two choices. No. Either team up against me with Thorin.
I give you all a choice, exactly.
Or receive flame by Thorin. I'm glad you chose the latter and you didn't team up against me. Like, I swear to God.
Again.
Yeah.
You waited.
I swear to God, people I've never fucking talked to before, people I just interacted with once or twice, they come on the show and they're suddenly like best friends with Thorin and they start flaming me. I'm like, okay.
I'm just a charismatic guy. I turn people to the dark side. You have to realize they're like, oh, how do I banter? And I'm like, you can't learn it from a Jedi. It's like, there we go.
I will call Loco out if he has to be called out. But,
what?
Yeah, exactly.
What do I have to get called out on? Like, I'm a nice guy. I work hard. I watch a lot of games.
You know what? All I'm going to say is this. I have one thing to say before we end this call. Right? In life, the people you meet who are really nice people never describe themselves that way. They always go like, oh, I'm not much of anything. I'm a very humble person. Like, the people who go, I'm just a nice guy, they're always like, there's some darkness lurking in there. And that's like the evil mask they're putting over, like, no, I'm just a nice guy. Trust me. It's like, that's all I'm going to say about that. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
That's all I'm going to say. That's the end.
All right, that's the end.
I'm a nice guy. Would you like some ice cream?
Exactly. Just stay away, kids. Stay the fuck away.
Would you like to come into this band?
Exactly. Why do you make me into a fucking child kidnapper? What the fuck?
What did I say there?
You fucking, like, the people that ask you to go into a van are child kidnappers.
Obviously, yeah.
You fucking had that implication to me. Oh my God.